Welcome back, everybody, back again to a new episode of RP Gibberish. This is the second episode in the Revival series, and we got some great things planned. But without further ado, I have my great host and buddy here. It's Greg, RPG Swagman. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing really good. I'm still suffering from a very acute addiction of Hyrule Warriors, and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon, sadly.
Ooh, interesting. I'm definitely interested to find out more, and I think many of our listeners will as well. So let's talk a little bit about that. But in any case, welcome. Let me just outline for everybody out there listening, whether it's on YouTube or now on iTunes. Yes, we are on iTunes as well. Check it out. It's great to have the podcasts on the go. But in any case, let me outline the topics for this particular episode. So, what we're going to be talking about mostly is fan translations and untranslated games. So, there are many, many games, Japanese RPGs out there in the world, and some of these have just not been translated. As there are, of course, several fans that try their best at localizing them for everybody to enjoy. But sometimes there are just those games that we missed out on, or some games that we are interested in that are currently in development. So, what we're also going to be doing is we're going to be talking about our most anticipated untranslated games. Greg has a list, and I have a list. We are going to be going over that back and forth. And then also what we announced on our Facebook page. Yes, we are selling out here. We have iTunes now. We have Facebook pages and community, but it's really great. We are talking to a lot of great people there. So definitely check out the Facebook page for RP Gibberish that we have. There's many, many awesome people there talking about JRPGs. We post about news and all that good stuff. But what I ran there is a contest. The very first RP Gibberish contest. In the spirit of sharing is caring, we are going to be giving away two money prizes, which I hopefully the winners will redeem on actually Japanese RPGs instead of something else. But we'll get to that later on. We have some great entries. Basically, what we asked everybody is to come up with your favorite untranslated games in English, maybe one, two, or three entries, and a little bit of explanation. And we're going to be picking a winner as well as a randomized winner. So that are the two prizes. But that's going to be the main course of this RPG episode. So to whet your appetite, everything awesome, ready to be played, but we can't. So it's going to be a disappointing episode for some because there's going to be awesome games that we cannot actually play, except for a few listeners that are very fluent in Japanese. But before we get ahead of ourselves, we're also going to be delving into a couple of news announcements that happened in the last couple of weeks and months since Tokyo Game Show, as well as delve a little bit in some of the RPGs that we have been playing. So I'm going to hand it over to Greg. He is going to be telling us everything about these awesome, awesome news announcements that happened in the last couple of weeks. So take it away, Greg.
Okay, very recently, today, as of the time of this recording, the entire world had Nintendo Direct, and they did some information on the upcoming releases. Towards the end of the Direct, they had a small little snippet of news for Xenoblade Chronicles X. It was very relatively small, but we finally got to see new footage. The thing that really surprised me is the detail in the towns is far more than I ever anticipated. Of course, to all those who have already played Xenoblade, you know that you can pretty much walk around anywhere you can and explore all the little secrets you can. The amount of detail that's gone into these new colonies, the one that they showed in the trailer was Neo Los Angeles, and I was surprised that you could literally jump into people's backyards. That's how detailed it was, and the game itself is super detailed. Like walking down the street, you see like a pizzeria, all like the details on the sign. It's pretty awesome. One thing I thought was really funny, I have to take a stab at, is why they showed the player jumping around people's yards. There's some girl sunbathing, and I basically said to myself, hang on, isn't this supposed to be a society that's struggling to survive? what the fuck she's doing there? What the
Yeah.
hell she's doing? And I said to myself, maybe she's on leave, Greg. So maybe she's working, it's her time off. But I just thought it was really funny because the game gives off this vibe that everyone's pitching in to help survive. And just seeing that footage there just made me laugh. So I'm guessing Monolith Soft is going to throw in a lot of Easter eggs and just some funny moments, for people who want to go off the beaten path. But I still think this is going to be a really dramatic and really deep and dark, brooding story. And this trailer just shows the scope of what this game's going to have. I reckon it's going to be absolutely massive, and it will not disappoint fans of the previous Xenoblade game.
Yeah, I was watching the Nintendo Direct, and it was a really fun one. And of course, more Xenoblade Chronicles X news is great. Personally, I'm very happy to see that it's still targeted for 2015. However, this was the first time where I actually got a good glimpse at sort of the, punchline story. And that is really tempting to me. I really like the fact that it's basically this group of survivors coming from Earth trying to find a new planet to survive. That is a very interesting concept, seeing how I'm usually very big on sci-fi and stuff like that. I believe there is a movie coming out actually today here that I'm very excited for. It's like my most hyped movie of the year. It's actually dealing with the same topics. So that's Interstellar, by the way.
Mm.
But I believe that has to deal with the same topics of mankind trying to survive and trying to find a different place. But that's a movie. We're not here. We're not a movie podcast. But that is something that really struck with me well for XCX. Detail looks fantastic. I'm really excited for this game. Now, granted, I still have not finished the original Xenoblade Chronicles. I've tried it. I'm 2-3 sessions, about 10 hours in. And something that kind of disappointed me in regards to the Nintendo Direct is the lack of new 3DS announcement in the West. Well, technically in the West. I was hoping that they were going to be announcing the system to be released in Europe and North America, and then also target a release date for Xenoblade Chronicles on the 3DS. So that's definitely something that I would like to pick up and play, as long as the port is well, it can handle its own. But I was a little bit disappointed by the fact that they didn't announce it. However, I know full well that the new 3DS outside of Japan has actually been announced for Australia and New Zealand. Crazy enough. I believe it's coming out in December, right, Greg?
It's actually coming out towards the end of November.
Oh,
But the silly thing is, there is no special content. There's no new 3DS games for it. Basically, the only thing they're selling it for is, oh, it's the optimized way to play Super Smash Bros. And I'm like, well, I'm already playing it now, so I'm not going to fork out another $250 just to make it a little bit easier for myself. No, it's going to be games like Xenoblade Chronicles that will really push the system. And that's when I'm going to get my new 3DS, is when Xenoblade Chronicles comes out. But hopefully in the next year, we also get some other RPGs that is using the enhancement for the system, and we get some other games as well. I mean, Xenoblade Chronicles is worthy enough, but I'd like to see some other things as well.
well, talking about that, there was another 3DS game announced, and I was kind of thinking, was this not going to be a new 3DS title exclusive? But we can jump right into it. What is the title of the other 3DS game?
There was actually a few. One of the ones, even though this is sort of main RPG podcast and everyone argues whether this is an action adventure game or an action RPG, it's like the battle of the ages. Of course, they announced a Zelda Majora's Mask for the 3DS, and that's kind of one that they caved into fan demand because there wasn't a thread on the internet. It's like, give us Majora's Mask, give us Majora's Mask. Well, those people can quiet down because you're getting Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
So, and Majora's Mask, to be perfectly honest, I'm one of the biggest Zelda fans on the planet. It's kind of mid-tier for me. It does a lot of things interesting, but it's not like one of my super mega happy, fantastic Zelda games. It kind of sits there in the middle. I know a lot of people love it, but I'm sort of got to be honest with myself, and it's kind of in the middle with me. I don't mind it.
Hmm.
But the one game Aaron may be referring to, and I got to say, the more I'm looking at this, it's interests me is I think I could be the entire name, but I think it was a codename Steam.
No, no, no. I was actually talking about that other series that I
Well,
completely scratched off. But Codename Steam, just to let you know, I'm not that excited for it. To be honest, I'm when I was announced at E3, it just not look doesn't look very tempting to me, despite the fact that it's intelligent systems. It's kind of having that Valkyria Chronicles
yeah.
vibes, but I am not really keen on this one for some reason. I have to see more, but not sold yet.
Gameplay wise, it reminds me so much of Valkyria Chronicles, and that's the main reason I definitely want to have a go at it, and because it's intelligent systems. The reason why I don't want to is because of when I saw you are under Abraham Lincoln, I was like, my attention span just dropped. And that's not like a kick in the face to our American listeners, but Abraham Lincoln's been done to death, and for him to be in a video game, in a steampunk game, I was just like, what? But I'm guessing this is Intelligent Systems kind of hat in the arena for Valkyria Chronicles games. You got Valkyria Chronicles, which is this fantasy World War II setting, and then now you've got Intelligent Systems doing this fantasy steampunk-esque, 17th, 18th century game. And I don't want to completely dismiss it because it's on that time period, but yeah, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic about that game. If at anything, I'd probably wait until it's cheap, but I need to know a lot more before I get into it.
Yeah, agreed, definitely agreed. It's just letting it out. There's thinking about it out loud. Fire Emblem cross Valkyria Chronicles, the overhead style of Fire Emblem, and when you get down to it, you go into a little Valkyria Chronicles gameplay. They can make it happen.
Yeah.
It's possible. Lucina
Oh,
versus Salveria. I can see this happening, but there's already SMT versus across Fire Emblem that we know nothing about. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But
and surprisingly, that wasn't in the direct. I mean, that is in development, like nowhere.
yeah,
oh man.
they haven't spoken about the game since their original announcement, which was back in the May 2013, somewhere before E3 even. Nintendo, their first ever Nintendo Direct. Nothing since then. Sega bought out Atlas. I don't know. We'll wait and see. XCX was announced at the same Direct, and that has gotten some attention. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that game. But speaking about the game that I was actually referring to, it is Atelier Rorona for the 3DS. I was kind of thinking that this might be another one of those new 3DS titles, given the fact that I know I'm not a big fan of the Atelier series. I know we did a whole episode on there, and I was just listening in. But the graphics are supposed to be very awesome. And I believe there's also Atelier Rorona Plus on the PS Vita. And that looks really cool. And now they're going to be downgrading it to the 3DS. I'm not sure if I'm too keen on this, except for just milking it dry and getting more sales for Atelier.
Oh man, Gus really. They're really fallen for me. It's just, I mean, when we get into games we're talking about recently, I'm going to talk about my feelings towards Arno Surge, but Gust is not one of my favorite developers right now, and I've kind of admit to myself I'm kind of done playing their games.
It's very interesting. We all know me. I used to collect pretty much every JRPG out there. I built up a sizable NIS collection, and in the end, I only played about one or two, like Mana Chemia and some non-JRPG games from NIS and Gust and all that good stuff. However, recently there's this one probably faithful listener out there, which is Mario from the Accent on Gamers channel, and he's been recommending Atelier to me, saying that I should pick it up on a Vita and just play it. He's
I'm not
very convincing though. He's very convincing.
They are. I think that's going to be one I have a strong stance on saying nah, nah. Just I played Atelier Arona, and that to me was mid tier. Like I wouldn't say it was a complete bust. I mean, I enjoyed some parts of the game, but some parts of the game I was rolling my eyes. I was just, it's not a series for me. It really isn't. And I think I've talked to a lot of people about it, and they've kind of caved in and understood why I'm not really fond of it. So
I see. Well, hearing a lot of mixed reviews. Yeah, for me, I owned the games on the PS3, just didn't have the time to play it at all. So I just haven't played it. Maybe I should give it a try and to see what the fuss is all about and see if it indeed is mid tier. We'll see. I have many other games to play. We'll get that in a little bit. But Atelier Verona, that was the I think that about covers everything JRPG wise from Nintendo Direct. There was another great event happening about a week before it, right, Greg?
yes, and it was actually quite surprising because I must admit this is a game that would not get talked about for the last couple of years, and in this year alone, they probably covered more about the game than they have in the last 7 years of its development. Basically, in Paris, Square Enix hosted an event where they talked about Type Zero and Final Fantasy 15. And what was really cool is even though these trailers and videos that they showed footage of the game were subtitled in French, they actually, for I should say for Type Zero's part, actually finally showcased the English voiceovers, which I thought was really cool. And I got to see more of the game. I think I ultimately chose the right thing to do to wait for the HD port because it runs really smoothly. It looks really good. I'm definitely going to get my PS4 around the same time this comes out. The voice acting is okay. I don't think there's any problems with it. It's pretty standard and they got the job done basically. But that's only a small snippet. Who knows? Maybe I'll play the game and will be really amazed of, what they have to offer. So, really cool.
All right, all right. Anything else from Square Enix?
Yes, we're gonna talk a little bit about this because there's just been so much about it that we didn't get to cover too much about in the TGS episode. But they finally showed some more footage of the upcoming FF15 demo, and it looks really cool. They finally showed off when you can get out of the car and you can literally just go off the beaten path, Xenoblade style, and this is the part of the game that has me really excited because I didn't know how far you can go out, and yeah, it's really massive. You can go anywhere you want, and it shows them getting out of the car, and they go out into the field, and it's like got a herd of these buffalo-like monsters that they were dodging, and then they kept running and running into a forest, and the forest was so super detailed and it was full of its own animal life, and it showed them kept running until the sun went down, and it showed the mechanics of nighttime. You saw the characters bring out their torches and really nice lighting effects. It's really awesome. And they kept running to like the other edge of the lake, and you stood on the pier and you saw where the other side where your car was. And it's like, oh man, the scope of this game is phenomenal. And I think when I get the game, I'm going to be exploring every nook and cranny. The thing I really want to know about is character interaction. Is it going to be like the older Final Fantasy games, or is it going to be like 13 where you just brush past someone and they may say something that, with basically how they did in that game is they would say something to themselves or to someone then, but they will never put it towards you. And I have a feeling that may happen, but I'm hoping there'll be at least some characters that will converse with you. Like when I saw them driving past the gas station, I said to myself, when I'm playing the game, I'm going straight into that gas station, and I really hope I can actually go inside. And it'd be cool if I could go inside and buy potions or whatever inside. That'd be awesome if I could do that. But graphically, I'm really impressed with everything. And what was really cool about this video is they showed off the Luminous engine, and they showed off how they placed all the trees, all the terrain. It's really astounding, and I'm really excited. Even though it's a Final Fantasy game, I should be really cautious. I will say that I am really excited for the game. I can't lie to myself. I really want to play it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Of course, I saw the videos as well. It looks, it looks absolutely gorgeous, and this, yeah, I'm just presentation wise, it looks really cool. I just have my, we talked about this in TGS. I just have my concerns about the story and being male only, but we've talked about that before. I'm really looking forward about the demo. One thing that I have to talk about here, though, is something that came up with the release. Basically, right now, if you go to Amazon UK, you can order the game Type 0 HD for PS4, Xbox One, and it says there you got to pre-order soon because the demo is going to be a timed thing. And this is something where I'm rolling my eyes out. It's not like, why do they not just include this Final Fantasy 15 demo on the disc instead of having to redeem codes, download it, and then also make it a pre-order bonus? Like, what the fuck is going on here, Square? For every good news, usually Square gives us 3 or 5 things back that are not so cool. But because I'm more hyped for the demo than actually for Type 0 HD.
That is a dick move on their behalf. It's just really stupid to hype up and say, "Hey, it's going to come with the game." It's like, no, no, no. Now it's going to be a pre-order bonus or a timed exclusive in certain parts of the world. That's the problem. They give localization and distribution to different companies or different sectors, and they have their own plans, and one country ends up getting screwed in the process. Like Hyrule Warriors, there was in Japan you can get like all these costumes at once if you lived in Japan. In America, they did this stupid system where if you pre-ordered the game at a certain retailer, you can only get one set of those costumes, and you would miss out on the others because they were exclusives for those other retailers. That is so shit. That is just
Yeah.
really shit.
Just
And
to, yeah, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it'd shoot them in the foot to get everyone excited for the 15 demo and then just say, hey, nah, you have to get it as soon as possible. No, they'd kill them in the end. It really would. They really need to pack in that game with, Type 0 HD.
Yeah,
It's in their best interest to do so, to get hype for the game.
Oh, definitely. I really hope they do that. Just thinking about it, yesterday was another great, awesome announcement, to be honest, in JRPG news. And that is the fact that Square Enix is going to be releasing a Kingdom Hearts 2.5 Collector's Edition in Europe and USA, or at least North America. It looks really awesome. You basically get 1.5, 2.5 at once. You get a lot of cool art books. You get a great steelbook with some awesome art, nice package box, and you get like a Heartless plushie. It looks really cool, and money wise, I can just drop the money right now, and I want it. However, talking about stupid decisions, it's going to be a Square Enix store exclusive.
Of course it is.
And right now it only says USA, UK, and France. So basically, the entirety of Europe, and Square Enix of Europe is behind this. The entirety of Europe is UK and France. Now, with a side note, this is just announced yesterday on their blog. If you go to the store, the actual item is not yet available. So I have not tried to order one yet from the Netherlands. But if I'm not able to order it, like the Theater Rhythm Curtain Call limited edition, which after a couple of weeks later I could finally get to the Netherlands. They say it's very limited quantities. I want it on my shelves because I'm a big Kingdom Hearts fan, and having to miss out for this bullshit because Europe is, the Netherlands is not UK and France, but Europe. That is some really stupid decision. But I am really hyped for this collector's edition because it looks really cool.
And just the fact that it's not available yet, that means when it is, that site is just going to be fucked when everyone goes at it at once.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've already been checking it like 15, 20 times already for the last day or something, just to be able to get it in. You know, it's really bad. And then then I have not even touched on the fact that, you know, Australia is also there. And I know a lot of Kingdom Hearts fans in Australia. I saw a lot of Twitter messages already. You know, it's really bad that they do this shit.
Yeah, no, we got a very fanatical fan base in Australia. I think honestly, because I've been focusing more mainly on new games, I'm probably going to wait until just the single copy's a bit cheaper. I mean, because I've already played the games that are on the disc, and of course, I'm encouraging everyone to get 2.5 just to play Birth by Sleep alone, because it's definitely the best in the series. I think it's going to be just a while longer before I delve back into it, to be honest. So I know you're a big Kingdom Hearts fan, so I hope you can snag one of those special editions, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, just as a side note, it's definitely something that I would like to have in my collection because it's like this mega package all in one. You get pretty much everything except Dream Drop Distance. And you cannot really play 358 over 2 days and, of course, recode it. But I finished them. Bless you. And they're not a really great game, so just being able to actually see the cutscenes is fine by me. But just as a side note, I will not be playing 1.5, which I've already had for a year, or 2.5 for a while, until we actually get cracking with Kingdom Hearts 3. So about 6 to 9 months before it comes out, I will definitely replay the entire series. But for now, not yet. For now, it will be... we'll have to wait, but hopefully I can get my hands on it because it looks really great. And I love plushies, and the Shadow Hearts plushie looks really great. I would like to have that on my shelf next to the other ones. But really cool stuff. I just hope Square Enix does not really fuck up the release. But for me personally, that wraps up all the news announcement. I don't know if you had anything else that you wanted to talk about.
Nah, that's pretty much it.
All right. So I think then that's time to actually delve into the segment of some of the RPGs that we've been playing. Just dedicate 15 to 30 minutes about that. So Greg, you can go ahead. What are some of the JRPGs that you've been playing?
I'm going to start off with something negative, and of course, I want to just apologize to any Gus fan. I don't intentionally hate Gus. They just don't make the games that I sort of enjoy the most. Like, there's other RPGs that I love a lot more. And I have played a lot of Gus games, but I was looking forward to one game this year, and I had my hopes thinking this would be the game that would break them out into, you know, being better than the other games they've done before. And of course, that's Arno Surge for the PS3, and I was really excited for it. And I looked at the trailer, the game looked amazing. It's like, yeah. And I got it day one, or I should say a week later. And I think it's one of the most disappointing experiences I've had in a couple of years. The characters, I will have to say, I've only played it for 10 hours. So unless they do something drastic to make them 100 times better, then I can just tell you now, they are really boring. They are really uninteresting. And if they're not boring, they're really annoying. There's one character that annoys the crap out of me. And it was one of the first RPGs I've played in a while where I actually sped up the X button. And haven't done that in ages. It's just like, get on with it. Never do that. I'm a guy who loves RPGs for stories. And I can't remember the last time I just repeatedly kept pressing the X button. It's like, let's just do it. The thing that annoys me is the main plot of this game and the main sort of sense of danger. It's probably the most endearing, so I should say the most interesting part, but it's also the part that's least talked about. There's so much side content, and the side content is really not up my alley. It's very goofy. It's got that Gus goofiness to it. And unless you're like one of those anime fans that likes tropes and all the different sort of, I can go into it, but it's not for me. I've kind of had this big frustration with the last couple of years that there isn't really that many epic RPGs that sort of reinforces why I got into the genre. It's just these budget type RPGs that are really for the hardcore. And I do consider myself a hardcore RPG fan, basically probably more so in the past than nowadays, because I haven't really been playing many RPGs the last couple of years, but I have been playing a lot more recently. But I found myself after playing Arno Surge, I went and played something like Wild Arms, and I was much more like enthusiastic when I was playing. I've already beaten Wild Arms, but I was enthusiastic to play that again after playing 10 hours of Arno Surge. You know, and the battle system in Arno Surge is so simplistic. You have this combo system, but then when you've generated enough hits and you've killed enough enemies, you have this one button KO ability. Basically, the female character, she has the song. Oh, what's the full name? I even forgot most of it, but the song activates and kills the rest of the enemies on the field, and it's a one-hit KO move, which pretty much takes away some of the thrill of the battle. And the thing that annoys me most about the game is you're getting your first mission and you have to journey to one sector to the other and think, oh, cool, this is going to be the first dungeon. It's going to be this nice, lengthy, worn-out thing. I'm looking forward to seeing the world of Arno Surge. It only took me 8 minutes. And and 4 rooms. And I was like, from this epic journey from one sector to the other, took 8 minutes, and I was like, I remember having my head in my hands, going, oh my god, this is, and you know, this is only early days, but my impressions of the first 10 hours of Arno Surge is not good at all. Just I cannot enjoy anything out of the game. I will say this: one of my friends got a bit pissed off at me when I told him that I was about to turn off the console when I did my first item synthesis, because when you synthesize items in the game, the characters do this like this idol girl sort of dance. And it's all these cutesy sort of Japanese sort of pictures in the background. And I was like, this is Artanelico 3 all over again. And I was like halfway to pushing the power off button. and I was just like, I need something a little more dramatic. I need something a little bit more dark nowadays. But not like overly dark, but just something I can sink my teeth into and really care about the characters on the screen. And Artanelico is just that game that I couldn't get into it. I just really couldn't. However, on the more positive end of the spectrum, and this is also a sci-fi RPG, and one that I'm kicking myself that I didn't beat this back in the day, is recently I'm playing Star Ocean 4: The Last Hope. And I really love it. Oh my god, this is a great RPG. And I love everything about it. And it's great going from one sci-fi RPG that was sort of like, oh man, it's so lackluster, and going to this next sci-fi RPG that has everything that I love about sci-fi RPGs. And it's so good. I love the art style, I love the visuals, I love the combat system. And I'm usually really defensive against tri-ace battle systems, but the Star Ocean battle system is so good, it's so deep, and I'm got a hang of everything, and I'm enjoying everything. I love the enhancement system where you have your individual character EXP, and then you've got this party sort of EXP as well, or I should say special points, and you use these for skills. It is kind of simplified from the other Star Ocean games, but I'm really enjoying just grinding and getting these special skills up, and so far it's been a real enjoyable experience. And I like the fact that it's like it's going to be a theme of this podcast, because we've already mentioned before about interstellar travel with Xenoblade Chronicles X, and of course Arrow briefly mentioned Interstellar, and this is another one of those games that touches upon that. It's probably the most quintessential game where Earth is pretty much done for, and their special forces basically go out into the Star Ocean and seek new planets. And I really like that. It's probably one of my favorite types of sci-fi stories. And I actually read the other day that one of the main heads at Tri-Ace is a big fan of Star Trek. And that really shows with Star Ocean: The Last Hope. And what's really funny is the next game that Tri-Ace is working on right now is Phantasy Star Nova. And you can also see the influence from Star Trek in that game as well. And I think to myself, man, I'm really enjoying Star Ocean 4. Maybe I should import Phantasy Star Nova when it comes out, because it's got the same sort of story. But I'm really impressed with Star Ocean 4. I'm kicking myself because I've owned both the 360 copy and the PS3 copy for years, and I just didn't have time for it. And I wish I could go back in time and make time for it, because I'm really enjoying myself.
That's interesting to hear because I finished Star Ocean 1 and Star Ocean 3. I haven't played the second game, which I still have in my collection, and I was the same as you. I had both the 360 and PS3 version, all nicely sealed. And just time-wise, I figured I'm not gonna ever delve into the fourth game, so I gave them away to one of our faithful listeners. Uh, maybe I regret that now, but good to hear that
Um,
it's a great game, though.
if I wanted to say the only thing that's negative, and it's sort of a slight on me, is the first three characters they got. I like them. I know a lot of people don't really care for the main character Edge. I think he's okay. He doesn't bother me. The second character, the female character Ray. Roundy, I think I'm pronouncing that wrong. And then you've got the Eldari character, Faris. I'm also pronouncing that wrong, but I really like the initial three characters.
Hmm.
The fourth character is annoying as she's a little girl who's basically the magic user who's a know-it-all, and then even though she's a know-it-all, she has this bratty nature about her. And if you don't know, listeners of RPG Gibberish, that's my least favorite character archetype of RPGs. Really, really annoys me.
So
You
the
know,
that's the arrogant small little girl.
yeah, it's the one where they have this great intelligence, but then when they choose to, they'll act all bratty to, to show up one of the characters or the character's entirety. And I've never been a fan of that character. There's only been one game where they've done it justice, and that's Trails in the Sky with Tito.
Yeah.
She's really cool. She's a really good character. She falls under that category, but she's really respectful, and I like her connection with Estelle and the rest of the party members. So she's one of the only characters that gets a free pass, and she's probably the best representative of that archetype. But in other characters, especially Star Ocean, where it's always a common theme to have the annoying sort of girl genius, is just
Have you played
always annoying.
Have you played Abyss? Tales of the Abyss with Ennis?
Okay, if I talk about Tales of the Abyss, people are going to come to Australia and want my head in a
No,
box.
no, no, no. No, wait. Tales of the Abyss is still one of my favorite Tales games. So let's not delve into this stuff.
Oh no, I have all my friends are Tales fans, and I tell them what I think of Abyss, and they are not amused when I talk about my feelings. They want me to beat it, but I will say this now: half the cast in that game annoys the crap out of me. And you want to know the surprising thing?
No,
It's
but,
not Luke. Luke
oh,
doesn't annoy me. Luke doesn't annoy me. Most of the female characters do. Tyr's awesome. I will say I love Tyr. I love Jade. But Natalia and Anlis, oh God, I hate them so much.
yeah. Natalia was a little bit weak character, but yeah. No, I enjoy Tales of the Abyss, given the fact that I still have a couple of Tales games to get through. But I like Abyss a lot more than say Symphonia. But the Tales,
We'll,
yeah.
we'll get into it one stage because I've actually got some in-depth analysis of why I'm not really a fan of Abyss, but we'll leave that to another episode.
Yeah, sure.
So,
All
but
right. Just one thing. Be prepared. Be prepared. If you're ever going to be playing Danganronpa 2, good luck with Hiyoko. Just for those visual novel fan listeners, enjoy Hiyoko. You will hate her. We all hate her. Fuck that bitch. She's the same type of archetype, where it's exactly this bratty, snooty, small girl. Just because she's probably so small, she acts all, arrogant because she's insecure. But I hated that character. But in any
But
case, if you ever get to it, then that's you'll enjoy that.
oh wow, goody.
All
And by the
right.
way, just a very quick, this is not us having anything against most female. We love female characters in RPGs. I more hearken to the more mature sort of female characters,
Yes.
and the main and sort of like I know there's a lot of archetypes. Like one of the big ones, of course, is the good-natured, quote unquote healer girl that's in a lot of RPGs. I
You
don't
know,
mind that, but it
I love her.
does. Did you say you love her?
Yeah, I love her.
I
It's my-
love her in FF10.
Yeah, yeah. I see what you're doing there. I loved her in both.
Oh dear.
Oh yeah. What's this
But,
going
but
to?
nah, we'll skip that for now. But that so-called quote unquote healer character, that's a game to game sort of analysis because some you'll go into like, oh cool, but then you'll go into some like I feel like I've been here before.
Oh man, there's so many archetype characters, man. We haven't even delved into, like the obvious princess girl trying to escape her fate, and then she wants to go on epic adventures.
just
There's so much more.
just out of curiosity, just to get off the subject, what is your favorite archetype? Don't get into too much detail because we'll save it for another episode, but I'm interested. What's your favorite RPG character archetype?
Ooh, just yeah, the more the very heroic main character is something that I always enjoy. Just acting, all protective of the people he cares for and the party usually. That is something that I really enjoy. And then in terms of the female parties, it's always the good natured ones. I always enjoy that. But this is an interesting topic. I'll have to delve into this a little bit more.
Very, very quickly, if you want to know mine, I like the anti-hero. The one that has so much pain in his life and he doesn't know where to aim it as. He could do something really destructive towards the party or could do something really destructive towards the enemy or essentially do something really destructive towards himself. And he feels like because that or he or she has suffered this horrible fate that she has the right to commit whatever horrible things he does, and there's some anti-heroes that go bad and there's some anti-heroes that make amends, and it's my favorite type of character.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, that usually shows, when you have characters that just develop over time, they change alliances, or they can go bad, they can go good sides, and I like that type of stuff, where you're just focused on it's being an antagonist, but he still has good qualities to them, or in the end still saves the party or the world and helps you out, and those types of things. That is a very good archetype as well. But it's an interesting topic. We can delve into it a little bit more later on in maybe another episode.
Oh, definitely, absolutely.
All right. So getting back to the topics of RPGs that we've been playing, you were also playing Hyrule Warriors, right?
I mean, you cannot classify it as an RPG. It does have an RPG leveling system, which is really cool. But very quickly, yeah, that game, I think it's my favorite game of the year. It really is, and I'm a big Warriors fan, and I've had this really tight knit list of Warriors games that I've loved throughout the years, and nothing's really like gone out of place. Hyrule Warriors has become my second favorite Warriors game of all time. It's so much fun. There's so many things to do. That adventure map is crazy. I mean, it's like 140 plus battles, but you'll be doing most of those battles over again because they're really difficult to get an A ranking. And in this game, it's not just to, spout to your friends. Getting that A ranking unlocks better weapons, more heart pieces. So there's great incentive to keep playing. Also, it wins the award of the best DLC ever in a video game. I got the first round of DLC, and not only did I get costumes, I also got weaponry, and I got another adventure map with 140 plus battles.
Oh, wow.
And this is only round 1 of 4.
Jeez.
And they just announced today that the amiibos that you can use with other games will be also compatible with Hyrule Warriors. If you get Link, Link will have another weapon, and he's already got like 6.
Yeah, I saw that. Some sort of spinning top thing that you can then create multiple ones and then aim it towards characters or something.
Yeah, it's from Twilight. It's a item from Twilight Princess, and it's really cool that they're incorporating that into the game. And just before this recording, someone from Tecmo Koei hinted that Zelda will also be compatible as well. She'll get a new weapon. So it's like I'm already getting these amiibos for just to look cool on my shelf. I never intended to use them for the games, but here I'm getting Super Smash Bros. For Wii U. I'll be able to use them for that, and now I can use them for Hyrule Warriors, and now you can use them for Mario Kart Wii.
Yeah.
Just they're really awesome. I'm definitely going to get as many as I can.
Yeah, definitely. I want to get a few of my favorite characters. I only think that they're a little bit overpriced, especially here in Europe comparing to USD dollars, but they look great, and the fact that they are actually compatible with your games, that is really fun. They give you extras and stuff. Really interesting stuff, and I'm very happy to hear that Hyrule Warriors has pleased you in the right way. You guys know me, I'm not the biggest Zelda fan, and I've never played any of the Warriors games, so it's not really for me. But I have to be honest. Since the last episode, I am getting more hyped for Dragon Quest Heroes, just because I've been really wanting to play Dragon Quest, and it looks like a really nice game. I'm digging it more and more, and it's coming out in December in Japan, so hopefully the reviews will be good, and I get some a little bit more on the gameplay, and hopefully it will be localized.
It's funny you said have we got any more RPG news? It's like I knew I forgot something. They showed footage of all the new Dragon Quest characters like Jessica and Yangus,
Yes.
and the female characters from Five. And it's like, oh man, this is definitely going to be a must-have for my collection.
Yeah. And
And of
for me,
course,
it looks like a good game and fun game to get into the whole Warrior series for me personally.
absolutely. And I think, like I said before, it'll be more like Toki Kaiden, so it'll be more of an RPG than just the standard Warriors experience. So I reckon it'll be a good starting place for you.
True, true. Anything else that you've been playing?
Well, Samurai Warriors 4, and I cleared 40 hours of that and beat all the story mode in Beneath. And you'd think I'd get sick after playing Hyrule Warriors for about 80 hours, but nope. Samurai Warriors is actually my favorite Warriors series, and I was really surprised that I could get through that in the amount of time I did. I really enjoyed that. It really added some more unique sort of mechanics to the very old Warriors series. So that no, that was a really cool game as well. So I pretty much rounded up my year of Muso. I've played 4 Warriors games, and I think next year is going to be like a huge break for them because Koei's pulled all guns blazing for 2014. I think they're going to take a huge rest in 2015. Thank goodness, because there's so many RPGs coming out next year. I'm glad they can take a break, and I can more focus on RPGs.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's sometimes you just happen to have that. Last year was for me was really crazy with Shin Megami Tensei as well. Lots of games like playing them back to back, and now this year a lot of visual novels playing back to back. Sometimes that happens, and that's something for the good, and that's great. It's really great to be able to play what you love, and that there is a consistent stream of new games coming out. So. All right, let me delve into the RPGs that I've been playing, which are um, RPGs. What genre is that again? Uh, I gotta be honest here and say that for the last couple of months, I have not really been playing a lot of JRPGs. Just there's been many other games that I've been playing. Just as a reminder to everybody, my job is absolutely ridiculous. I have a job of about 50 to 60 hours. I was helping temporarily in my friend's restaurant, and then I have YouTube and Facebook that I talk a lot. So I don't really play a lot of games. However, the time that I did play, I had to play on consoles or handheld wise. I've been trying my best to get through a couple of games, but they haven't really been a lot of RPGs. The last real RPG that I was playing was Bravely Default. I can't remember if I talked about this in the last episode, but I got up to the point where I think it's end game before the stuff happens. Bravely Default, it's a 7-8 chapter game, and I'm now in chapter 4, where you're basically at the final kingdom, and I'm now at the point where the quality twist happens, where I kind of already know what's going to happen. I spoiled myself on that because I heard everybody talk about, man, after 40 hours, 30 hours, the game drops in quality and becomes so boring. But I'm right at that point where I just got to get through the final kingdom or final dungeon, and then probably some story stuff happens, and I got to play for 20, 30 more hours. But that got postponed due to another great game, which is a little bit RPG-ish. It's Final Fantasy Theater Rhythm Curtain Call. I put about 20 hours into that, and after that, I just got distracted into other games. I've been playing Chaos Head visual novel. I've been playing a lot of Western games like Alien Isolation, which Western game of the year for me. But RPGs, not really. However, there is one thing that I started to play. And it's only for an hour, and I really want to play more because my great friends and at Exanon Gamers, they sent me a copy of Valkyria Chronicles 3. And I started it up, and man, the first two battles, that felt so smooth, so great.
Mm.
I have not played Valkyria Chronicles 2, and I want to play 3 first, and it just feels really, really awesome. So I can't wait to delve into more Valkyria Chronicles. It will be postponed for a couple more weeks for certain events to happen, but I'm really, really excited to play Valkyria Chronicles, as well as some other great Excellent Gamers games that have been sent to me, like Nier for my Xbox 360, as well as Sakura Taisen 1 and 2 for the PSP. I'm going to be playing with a translation guide. Together with, Bravely Default, technically not a RPG, but Persona 4 Arena Ultimax that I still haven't kicked in. Sort of JRPG, of course, it's a more fighting game visual novel, but it's Persona. And then, of course, we're all anticipating the big one, the massive one for me, Persona Q.
Which is only 3 weeks away.
Yeah, it's 3 weeks away, and then probably because I'm ordering it from Canada, we'll add in a couple of weeks for delivery. So hopefully I'll get it somewhere-ish, 10 December or something. And then everything that I'm playing on handheld is going away. Everything will be focused on Persona Q. Play it, enjoy it. It can potentially be a game of the year. I put very high expectations on it just because I love Persona and Etrian Odyssey so much, but this Persona Q is definitely the JRPG to get me back into it after a small hiatus. I really have not played a lot of Japanese RPGs this year. Bravely Default, East Memories of Salsetta, SD Snatcher, some others that I can think of, but haven't really played any major ones so far. Just haven't, and there is quite a lot. I haven't even talked about Tales of Xilias, The Lightning Returns. There is, a Final Fantasy X-2 remaster. So many titles. I really got to get into the swing of things. And where 2014 was a very visual novel year, 2015 is definitely going to be a very JRPG year. I just hope that I have the time on my hands to actually get through a lot of these games, because my life is really busy, and JRPGs are the most time-consuming genre of them all.
Absolutely. I totally forgot. I have been playing Tales of Exilia as well. I've played 10 hours of it. And I like it a lot more than Tales of the Abyss. No, I actually do. I really like Exilia. I think Hyrule Warriors came out, and that took all my attention away. I enjoyed everything. I actually really like the characters of Tales of Exilia, and that will definitely be probably my go-to Tales games when I get back into the swing of playing a Tales games. To just quickly add upon Valkyria Chronicles, that is one of my biggest goals, is to play the other games, because number one is quite easily my favorite game on the PS3, and I'm actually halfway through Valkyria Chronicles 2. And the difficulty spike was too much for me at the time, and I was already stressed at the time, and it was just a game that I just shouldn't have. It wasn't the right time, but I checked if I still got the save file, and if I do, I'm definitely going to continue on really soon, because that's one of the series I definitely want to talk about on RP Gibberish at great length. Thanks to my good buddy Taylor, he gave me his copies of Valkyria Chronicles, like his entire collection. So I've already got both versions of 2, and I've actually got both versions of 3. The normal version and is it the XE or
Extra edition or something? That's the one I have.
Yeah, and because I absolutely love Valkyria Chronicles, it's nice to have this awesome collection, but I really want to play them. I've played the demo of 3, and that is so good. I've also watched the Prelude anime that was actually got uploaded to PSN, but someone fan translated it, and I've watched that, and I really love the characters of Valkyria Chronicles 3. I'm really hyped to play that. It's really cool as well that Valkyria Chronicles 1 is also coming to Steam. We didn't talk about that very briefly.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. And they say it's going to be optimized depending on your computer, so you'll be able to play it better than it'll look on a PS3. So that is awesome.
Yeah, that's great news. And it shows that Valkyria Chronicles is not yet dead. No. So who knows in the future. I would love one on my PS Vita. I would love to see like another one. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I still have Valkyria Chronicles 3, and then I know it's quality-wise not as good as 1 and 3, but then I also have 2 to play through. But I loved one and just fell out of touch with all backlog and stuff. And I'm really happy that Excellent Gamer sent me a copy of the third game. That really gives me more motivation to just download a ROM and then play it on my own. But now, as it's been gifted, I want to do it some more justice and actually play it. So really hyped for that, and hopefully I can get through it in 2015. I have about 2 weeks off at the end of the year. Finally, since my Japan vacation, I have some days off, and I don't know how I'm going to plan it, but it's just me, sitting on the couch, playing games, going nuts. That is what I aim to do, but maybe plans change. But I definitely want to get through a lot of at least 1 or 2 JRPGs in that holiday season.
Sounds good.
Yeah, definitely. All right. I think that covers everything for the news announcements as well as the games that we've been playing. So for now, we're going to be delving into the actual main topic of this RPG podcast, and that is, of course, untranslated games, both retro and some new stuff, mostly retro. Some of the games that we just missed out on that have never came out of Japan and has even missed on the radars on some fan translators. And after our discussion, we're also going to be talking about the entries, contest entries, the games that were brought up by some great listeners. Talk a little bit about them. Are we hyped for them? Do we know them? Because there are some crazy titles that I really had to look up and prepare. So let's delve right into that right now.
Alrighty, who wants to go first?
Yeah, let's see. Well, let's just go back and forth. I have a list right here of 5 games. Was it 5? Maybe it was even 7.
I forgot if I said 5 or 10, and me and my excitement, I did 10.
Okay. All right.
But
So
I'm going to rapid fire half of them, but some I've actually got in great detail as well. So
okay. Let's do it from the bottom. So let's leave let's work up the chain of the most anticipated ones. I have 7, but one is a cop-out answer, and that is more Japanese visual novels. Yeah, I just love the series. I love the genre so much, and nowadays, because they are shorter than RPGs, I just love being able to play them or read them and without having to delve into like 40, 60 hours and getting stuck and grinding, but still being able to enjoy a great story. So it's a little bit of a cop-out ending. But let's get to the real 6th one. And that is a game that is already out in Japan, but not just announced for localization. And that is PS Vita's and also PS3's Lost Dimension, which I'm pretty interested in. It's kind of like Valkyria Chronicles and a little bit of murder mystery whodunit Danganronpa-esque. And X-Corn Muffing X, who is down there on the front lines in Japan playing all these games in Japanese because he can. He gave the game some good reviews and some recommendation if it ever comes out. So I'm hyped up for Lost Dimension. How about you, Greg?
I haven't really looked into it yet, so this is kind of the first time hearing about it.
Okay, well that can happen. Definitely check it out. It's not like the most awesomest game ever, but it looks nice. I don't know if it comes out, and the PS Vita right now for me it's just that system to just play some more lesser known quirky-ish Vita games on, and it's also somehow the system for me where I can basically say, well, let's just try this game. Let's just try it out. I recently picked up Phantom Breaker Battlegrounds. It's a brawler, and that surprised me a lot. Like, it's a really fun brawler game. One of the best in recent years for me. Let's not talk about. I'm so happy you have the virus in your house right now, man. Coda Princess.
Oh, I was like, what? You can tell I got a virus on my kid. Oh, Coda Princess. But it's well contained here.
Yeah,
let's just put it that way.
Quarantine to that island. They did it 100 years ago, and I just did it again. Just send it over to Australia with it. They'll quarantine it there. But yeah, that's Phantom Breaker, and I'm also very excited to pick up games like Senran Kagura, Bon Appetit, and maybe even the Senran Kagura games. So the Vita for me is like that system to just play a little bit more quirky games on and some experimental games. Like I really love Demon Gaze, the first-person dungeon crawler earlier this year. And of course, I have another one from Experience Inc. on my list. But Lost Dimension, I would play it if it comes out. I would definitely check it out.
It sounds like a game that, once again, I reckon either Access will definitely do it, or maybe Exceed. Yeah. I would say more Access.
Just very quickly, was Lost Dimension, who was the developer of Lost Dimension? Let me look it up. Oh, it's Furyu, the guys that also did Unchained Blades. So
that might be Exceed.
Yeah, that's Exceed. Exceed did Unchained Blades, but looks nice, looks interesting. We'll see how it goes. I've never played a Furyu game. I've not played Unchained Blades, but check it out after the podcast. Maybe you can get hype on that as well. But just wanted to add that one in there. So, what are some of the games that you have on your top 10 list?
Okay, here's one that's really obscure, and I've been following it for the last couple of years. The first game is actually fan translated, and I totally forgot that when I was doing my research today. So that sort of will probably motivate me to play it sometime down the road. The sequel, however, is not fan translated, and of course I'm referring to Madara 2. And it is an RPG based on an anime which is made by Konami, of all people. And it basically, the plot of the first game follows this character called Madara, who very unfortunately as a baby had all his body parts removed and nearly left for dead, but an inventor found him and replaced all his body parts with mechanical limbs, basically. And the reason why this terrible thing happened is because the father of this child, who's an emperor, didn't want his son to grow up and kill him to take his throne. So he did this awful act to protect himself. But that didn't stop him, for the main character, Madara, for going into the dimension and to take on his father's forces, which sounds kind of okay, but I saw footage of the second game. Oh my goodness, it looks so good. And it's got that SMT dark nature about it. It's really dark and brooding. And the graphics, while they look simple, the animation is really fluid. Like, the character models are really small. I would compare them to the Phantasy Star character models. But the amount of animation these characters have is astounding in battle. It's absolutely awesome. Now, I noticed that the music is really good, and there's actually a reason behind that error. The composer for the game is none other than Miki Higashino.
I see the name on Wikipedia.
Yeah, one of the main composers of Suikoden 1 and 2. So I was like, yep, this is definitely a game I need to play.
Yeah, I honestly, I never heard of the title. I just very quickly pulled up Wikipedia. And box art, sold. Konami, sold. Miki Higashino, super sold. And then Super Famicom. I don't know about the gameplay. I haven't seen it yet, but this is an interesting title. Madara 1 and 2. I'm just looking at Madara 2, but very interesting.
Awesome. Yeah, I know everyone's like, oh, you can watch the anime. No, I'd probably settle for playing the RPG, honestly. So, and it is, they do hook together. So 2 is a follow-up to 1. So I'll definitely play 1 first before I can get my hands on 2. But really amazing. That was made in 1993. So literally, the composers probably worked on Suikoden directly after this game. So really, really looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Very quickly, this comes as no surprise. This is probably one of the only games in the series that's not fully translated. It is partially, I should say Madara 2 is also partially fan translated from Aeon Genesis. It's just not completed yet. And the one I'm referring to as my second one is Fire Emblem Thracia 776. This has a 0.6 version patch, but it's not complete yet. It's one of the only Fire Emblem games that is not finished with its fan translation. This game has been deemed from most of the Fire Emblem fan base as the hardest Fire Emblem game in the series. And man, I hear about some of the shit that happens in the battles, and I'm like, oh. And what's really funny is there's actually an optional button that you can use in the game that I think helps level up your characters a lot better. If you think the game is too hard, you can switch this on and it sort of optimizes all your enhancements when you level up, which I think I'll be turning on straight away from hearing how difficult it is. Basically, if you don't know, the game takes place during the events of the other Fire Emblem game, Seisen no Keifu, otherwise known as Genealogy of the Holy War. Basically, it takes place during chapters 5 and 6, and you take control of the character Prince Leaf and his noble knight Finn and other characters. And of course, Finn was a character that I played as in Genealogy of Holy War. So it's nice to have these games that sort of interconnect. And I'm still playing through Genealogy of Holy War, so until I beat that is when I'll get excited to play Thracia 776. But really looking forward to the day when that is finally translated.
Okay, interesting. I also, like you, still have to play Genealogy of Holy War and Thracia 776. 776 is actually one of the 2 Fire Emblem games that I don't own in my collection, together with the Japanese version of the Sealed Sword, the 6th game, the first game with Ike. That's a pretty expensive one as well.
Wait, that's not the one with Ike. That's Path of Radiance.
Sorry, Roy.
Roy.
Apologies. Yeah. Yes, I played Path of Radiance, and for me, the most hardest Fire Emblem game, Radiant Dawn. I got through it. It was a little bit frustrating, especially when it's when you just have one more enemy to kill, and he kills one of your characters, and I don't like that permadeath stuff, so I got to do an entire hour again. But yeah, Fire Emblem wise, I played all the recent games, so from Path of Radiance, everything has been completed, but just retro stuff. I don't really have to delve into the older ones because they've been remade on the DS, but the Super Famicom ones and the GBA ones are still on my to-play list. I had not included them on my list personally, but yes, I would at some point like to get into all of them. And I was unaware that Thracia 776 is actually not completed. I thought that was actually already out, but good to know that that's not the case.
But I've seen footage of what it will look like, and it will look really cool. I reckon the one thing to look forward to with the, how do you pronounce it, the Jugdrel saga, is it really ups the ante for how dark a Fire Emblem game can be. There's a lot of heavy themes that is dealt through, especially in Genealogy of Holy War. I can understand why that game never got localization back in the day, but it's a really good story. It really is. So
yeah, I heard it's one of the best in the series. So yeah, I am clamoring for some Fire Emblem stuff soon after I beat Awakening last year. So I just really got to get into a retro mood as well to actually get into it. But good choice, good choice. So
over to you.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, I have another one that is an recent title that is not yet announced, and that is Tokyo New World Record Operation Abyss. It is another game from the developers of Demon Gaze, Experience Inc. Again, a title that Cornmuffing X already played and gave some good reviews about. They're basically remakes of these 2 games called Generation X 1 and 2, which were, I believe, PC first-person dungeon crawlers that, of course, they are not out in English. But they're now out together in one pack on the 3DS, and I'm interested because Demon Gaze was a fun first-person dungeon crawler, actually very surprising. So I'm going to add in Tokyo New World Record Operation Abyss on my list of untranslated games.
Cool. Yeah, you know, the company, I haven't really experienced anything of their games yet. Like, I haven't played Demon Gaze, but I looked them up, and they're mainly focusing on first-person dungeon crawlers. So you've definitely, if you're a fan of first-person dungeon crawlers, I can understand if you play those games. Me, I play dungeon crawlers very sparingly, so yeah, it's not really on my radar, but interesting to know.
All right, I know full well this is not an episode to talk about new games that are just not localized yet. We're also delving into some retro stuff. I got 4 more choices, but go ahead, Greg. You have some more.
Very, very quickly, and I'm going to have a couple of cheat answers here. one of them, of course, is one of my favorite series from Sega is Ryuga Gotoku, otherwise known as Yakuza, and I've got Yakuza Black Panther 1 and 2, and these were exclusively for the PSP. I own the first game, and it is definitely, without a doubt, one of the best looking games on the PSP. Of course, being on the PSP, it had to be a downgrade. What I really like is when you walk around the streets of Kamurocho, it has that old PS1 pre-rendered imagery, the pre-rendered backgrounds, and it looks really cool. Like, and it's sort of like this top-down sort of view, and it just looks really cool. I mean, the thing about the game I will say is really difficult is it's more tactical with the combat system. It's not a game where you can just throw punches and hope to just beat on the enemy. You actually know when to hit and when to defend, because if you keep mashing your button, your character will pretty much keel over and basically allow the enemy to have a free shot. So it's very tactical, kind of like a boxing sort of game. And you really got to know how to work the game. That's why when I just button mashed and got my ass handed to me, and I was like, huh, this is interesting. This is nothing like the other Yakuza games. But the setting looks really cool. It's more of a tournament kind of scene. The character is a young sort of thug character, and basically he's forced into this tournament, and if he doesn't fight, then the mob is basically going to hand him over to the police, and that's pretty much all I know about it for now. But I really enjoyed what I played of it, even though combat kind of kicked my ass. But I'm looking forward to one day if someone fan translated it. And the Yakuza fan base is just really getting sick of not any more Yakuza games. I guess I can pretty much round off, other Yakuza games like Yakuza Ishin and Yakuza 5, just any Yakuza game. Sega, come on. We need it.
Yeah, we talked about that at TGS. I see some more stuff about Yakuza 0. I like the 80s setting as well. I did some more research after we recorded, and I would definitely pick up Yakuza series as a newcomer to get into it, despite the fact that I played 1 and 2 and a little bit of 3, but...
See, this is why I needed a list for news. I didn't have to make a list for news. I made a list for this. There was actually some more Yakuza 0 news this week as well. They showed off the arcade and, old arcade games like Space Harrier and Outrun. And I'm just like, oh, this is so cool. Being a Sega kid like myself, I just really, really got into looking at the imagery. It's like, oh, this is so cool. And they even got old flyers from the old Sega clubs and they've gone pasted on the walls. And it's just so immersive. And it's just like, oh, man, I may have to import this.
All right, I'm interested. Let's await. Hopefully, we'll get some localization news for that, at least for 0 in 2015. The other ones, I think they're AWOL. Hopefully, some. I believe there's a translation guide out for Yakuza 5, so you can actually play it, and then on the side you have some guide that actually translates the story and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is another way, technically, of playing a game in Japanese. There are many games we're probably going to be talking about that have these guides available, or actually have Let's Plays on YouTube, which have just English in front of them. They are available, but still you're not actually able to play the game yourself in English. So just as a warning, but good choices of Yakuza. Let's see. I'm gonna add in my number 4. And that is because I am a big fan of Final Fantasy. This remains right now, since Type 0 is technically out in English and will be coming out officially as well. It is the only game in the main Final Fantasy series never to come out, and that is Before Crisis Final Fantasy VII, which was another Final Fantasy VII spin-off game together with Crisis Core and Dirge of Cerberus and Advent Children, the movie. But sadly, this came out on smartphones only when Japan had awesome smartphones and the rest of the world was still playing Snake on their Nokia 3310. But Before Crisis, it's a very interesting game in the sense that story-wise you play as the Turks organization when they were younger. So you meet young Reno, Root, Elena, and I believe even Vincent makes an appearance in the game. I was not 100% sure. And then you have Hojo is in there as well. And then there's that other guy whose name I forgot, like the leader of the Turks. That crazy guy that actually puts everything in advance. And There's even the guy that I cannot really talk about, but there's another character in there that is actually that's a spoiler for Final Fantasy VII. I know the game has been out for 20 years, but it looks really interesting, and I'm hoping that at some point Square decides to port this to iOS and Android, and of course localize it in English. But it seems like they just completely ignore this game. I know full well that for pretty much more than a year now, there's a fan translation on YouTube where somebody actually played through the game and then it's in English. But I don't know. I just haven't had the interest to actually sit down and watch that in its entirety. And I'm still hoping for the game to be playable because I think it will be a lot of fun.
Oh, definitely. I'm a big fan of the world of Final Fantasy VII, and I really like the Turks. So when I found about this game, it's like, oh, it'd be awesome to play it. But I kind of gave up on it a long time ago, thinking this is only going to be a Japan exclusive. And then when I saw the videos on YouTube, I was like, oh, cool. This really throws us a bone. Really, really cool. I watched a couple of videos on it. Really, really cool. You gotta love Rude. You gotta love Reno.
Yeah.
I just love FF7. There's gonna be an episode. I don't know when, but you'll be able to listen to my love of FF7, and it'll fill 3 hours. Definitely, it might fill 7 hours.
Oh yeah, I love that game so much and all the spin-offs and stuff and all the controversy nowadays with the newer generation and we can go crazy on 7, but we'll save that for another time. But Before Crisis is my number 4 pick, so back to you, Greg.
That was a really good pick. Really, really cool.
Thanks.
Alrighty. Okay, let's delve into. There's actually one company where I've actually got multiple entries, and this is going to be the first. I know Time and Eternity put a very bad taste in people's mouth for anything Image Epoch, but I'm actually here to say that for some odd reason, their best games never got localized. And this is one of them, The Last Ranker, which is a game from Image Epoch and Capcom. Basically, it's a game where basically this great big tournament is taking place, and basically people in this game fight each other. And when I mean fight each other, you can literally go up to any character in the game and ask them for a duel, which is awesome. And I've actually played a little bit of this game. I actually finally got it a couple of months ago. And I should have mentioned this in games I was playing, but I played a couple of hours of it. And I will say this now, it's one of the best looking PSP games ever. It's so good. It looks so good. The combat system is a little bit simple, but it's also very challenging at the same time. Like, you've got this one button that attacks, but if you hold down the R button, you also got some special abilities. So it's kind of that hybrid. Well, not really hybrid, but it's more a traditional turn RPG that I guess you can say closer to it is Valkyrie Profile, but then again, you don't say that. It's really weird. I'll have to take an episode to explain how the battle system works, but it's really simple, but really effective, and you got to know when to use your normal hits and your special hits. But, oh man, I can talk about how amazing this game looks and how it sounds, and I will explain why it looks good and why it sounds good. Basically, the character designer of the game is Tatsuya Yoshikawa, who did all the artwork for Breath of Fire, and I mean all the Breath of Fire games. And it is the one game where he was able to realize his character designs in full 3D, and they look amazing. It's just one of the best looking games on the PSP. Now, the reason why it sounds really good is because Yoko Shinomura did the soundtrack. And it's just like, oh, it's so good. And you know who the scenario writer was for the game? It was Kazushige Nojima.
I have heard this title name before.
And of course, he was one of the main writers for the Final Fantasy series, including 7, 8, 10. So
Yeah.
good pedigree, really good pedigree for this game. And I'm playing it, it's like, oh, I really want a fan translation for this so bad. It's really good. And the fact that Capcom didn't even give the time of day for this game, oh my god, people complain at Capcom for many reasons. This is a legitimate reason in my mind. It's just so good, and hopefully someone can translate it one day.
Yeah, no, The Last Ranker, I'm familiar with the title. I heard this many, many times of this is a great PSP JRPG, why is it not localized? So I was familiar with the title, and I've seen it appear sometimes here and there. People talk about it, they import it, they try it out, but very good pick. It seems like a really, really cool title. I was kind of dismissing it as kind of like another one of those Monster Hunter clones, but it seems that that is not actually the case. So apologies for that mistake, but it sounds like a very interesting title for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the very many that will be discussed on this episode of Image Epoch games that should have came out instead of Time and Eternity.
All right. You mentioned more Image Epoch games. Anything else?
Okay, now this is going to be the biggest entry in my list, so sit back and enjoy. Recently, along with Last Ranker, I got a copy of Final Promise Story. I've always translated to The Tales of the Last Promise. Wow, this game is really good. The setting of the game takes place in this city that is basically on its final hours. Basically, this big machine empire is closing in and is going to be absolutely annihilate this city. And basically, this squad of characters is the only line of defense against them. And this huge city is a big labyrinth, and you go through it and you save people, you do everything you can to survive. And the graphics, once again, it's Image Epoch. It looks so good. The cutscenes are on level with most of the Square Enix games on the PSP. It's just absolutely astounding. I absolutely love the characters. I love the dark setting. As I said at the start of the this episode, I was not looking too fondly on these more goofy, these kind of cutesy RPGs, and to play something like this kind of the tone that I'm looking for, exactly what I want to play. It's really dark. You know, the situation's really dire for the characters. I mean, it's such a good game. This is something that's going to turn Arrow off, though. It's a traditional RPG that has permadeath.
Well, permadeath is nice. It adds a nice challenge to it, but it's just frustrating when you have to go through a battle and then at the final part of the battle, you just lose a progress of... I hate losing progress. I don't hate permadeath. I hate losing progress. I absolutely detest it.
That's a fair call. I will understand that. Sometimes I'm pretty easygoing, but if it's like the fifth to the 10th time, I'm like, yeah, maybe I should put this down for a while until I can get a safe sort of mind of it. But I think it really adds to the situation because they're on their last sort of legs. That it kind of adds to the experience that you will lose these friends and everything because Armageddon is approaching, and I'm like. Once again, I'm going to say this a million times this episode, why wasn't this localized over Time and Eternity? And the only answer I can give is this game just came out when the rest of the world was giving up on the PSP. So basically bad timing.
But we still got Fate Extra very late in the PSP life cycle.
And we're getting Brandish and Trail's second chapter. So yeah, I wish they did it. However, I did watch a video of someone attempting to translate it, and I actually got a lot of info from that video. So I was really thankful for the person in charge because he did the translation for the opening cutscene, which was amazing, and I got to learn a lot about the game in that opening cutscene watching this video. So I might have to post that to the RP Gibberish fan page for all to see and get excited about. So yeah, Final Promise Story. Oh, and by the way, I have to just add... sorry for the cussing, but the soundtrack is fucking amazing. It really is. It's like I would go out and buy the soundtrack to this in a heartbeat. It's so good.
All right, that sounds like an interesting title. That is a title I've never heard of before, and I'm definitely going to be checking out that cutscene and maybe check out some gameplay and maybe get hype on the fact that this is another great PSP title that we should have gotten.
Very quickly, because the next game is actually very closely related to Final Promise Story, is a couple of years later, they released another game that used the exact same battle system. I don't think it's set in the same world, but when I looked at this game, it looks very, I wouldn't say carbon copy to Final Promise Story, but it looks very similar. And of course, it was the same team. But it's a game called Soul Trigger. and it has the same graphics design. It just looks the same from Final Promise Story, to be called a spiritual sequel of sorts. Basically, in this game, it's set in the distant future. It's based around the one city, exactly like Final Promise Story, where basically this one place gathers soul to create miracles, but this organization called the Machine Church, once again, it's a machine-based organization, basically is stealing it away, and there's a group of people who wants to oppose their corrupt use of the soul, and they fight to stop them. That's just a very simple sort of synopsis for the game. Once again, it's probably got permadeath in it. I don't know if it has permadeath. There's not really much info on the game. I've only seen a couple of gameplay videos and just look and just say, hey, it looks like Final Promise Story. I will say once again, the scenario is helmed by Kazushige Nojima once again. So it'd probably be a very interesting game like Final Promise Story. So I'm hoping one day that both those games will get translated back to back and you'll be able to play them in one go. That'd be awesome.
All right, I've heard of Salt Trigger before. This title sounds a little bit more familiar. I believe there are some rumors going on to be localized, but good to hear. I honestly have to say that I've actually never really played an Image Epoch game. I just haven't. Sounds pretty interesting to find out more about this company. Despite the fact that for me right now they have everything against them because they did Arc Rise Fantasia and Time and Eternity, which are some of the worst rated JRPGs in the recent years. So I don't, this is why I'm hesitant to getting into this. But listening to you, it sounds like a very interesting company, and these two games sound very interesting because I love them sci-fi settings, especially with this machine-ish steampunk attitude to it. So I'm interested for it. Good to know. Maybe in some time we get some fan translators to work on these titles.
There's been a big push for I'm just amazed at the PSP fan translation community. It's just grown so much, and the potential is just huge. And like, we need to like collaborate and kind of lead these wonderful people in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All right. So let me get right down to my number 3 and number 2 picks because they're related. We are. Of course, we are here. You're listening to me, and Arrow is, of course, one of the biggest Shin Megami Tensei fanatics out there. And we recently talked in the last episode about how awesome it was that we actually got a fan translation of Kyoyaku Megami Tensei 1 and 2. So that is the original Megami Tensei 1 and 2 for NES ported to Super Famicom, available in English. Now, I have not gotten around to playing it yet due to the backlog, but one day I will be able to delve into it. Just as a side note, the original Megami Tensei for the NES has also been released in English after the recording of the podcast. I will probably maybe check it out for a little bit to see the differences once I get to Kyoyaku, but I'll probably not finish that in its entirety because I already beat Kyoyaku, which is an upgraded port. However, with that being said, though, there are two main games right now in the Shin Megami Tensei universe that are unavailable in English that I would definitely like to play. The first is Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner. Now, some people right now are thinking, hold it, Arrow. Hold it right there. You are mistaken. We did get Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner on the PS2. Well, allow me to set the record straight. There is Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner Raido Kuzunuha games on the PS2. There are two games in there that take place in 1910, 1920 Japan, and they're action RPG, and you play as this detective called Raido Kuzunoha. That is indeed perfectly correct, and I've also played these two games, and I was not a major fan of them. They were fun experiments to an action RPG, but what I am actually talking about is Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner, the precursor to Devil Summoner Soul Hackers. So this game was originally released on the Sega Saturn as a very promising game. Basically what happens is there is this serial killer running around, I believe Tokyo or somewhere in Japan, and you as the main character, you actually this is not really a spoiler, this happens in like the first hour, and it's on the box. You actually get killed by this serial killer, and you actually then possess, from what I've gathered, you actually possess somebody else, or there's like this spiritual medium running around that actually possesses your ghost, creates like a split personality, and then you gotta save your girlfriend from the serial killer while demons are running on the loose. And it's another first-person dungeon crawler in the Devil Summoner style. I played through Soul Hackers. It's not one of my favorites, but it was still a very fun game for the 3DS. But sadly, Devil Summoner for the Sega Saturn and also its PSP port. There was actually a PSP port in 2005 in Japan. It never got fan translated or officially translated by Atlas, and I think it's a huge loss for us not to be able to play the original Devil Summoner, which was in a sense the first real spin-off game from the Shin Megami Tensei series, where they took the dungeon crawler devil demon aspects to it and then turned that into a sort of spin-off title just outside of the post-apocalyptic SMT style. I really hope to be able to play it someday. There's not really news on a fan translation in the works for this one, opposed to the other game that I'll talk about after Greg has rebutted my Devil Summoner entry. But I'm really interested in Devil Summoner. So, Greg, how about you?
Oh, this is one of the games that of course, we've already mentioned this. One of the few things that where me and Ero met was the fact that I was collecting Shin Megami Tensei games. That was a game I was looking forward to playing because of, as you've explained before, how dark and interesting the story is, and the fact this was like a 1995, 1996 Saturn game. I mean, could you imagine being, around that time? Because I would have been like 10 years old, and I wouldn't be in Japan, of course, so I wouldn't understand what it would be like to be around when that game was released as a new game. That would have just been crazy to play it when that come out, because you have to remember Shin Megami Tensei was huge in the 90s in Japan. It was massive, and that's what led to all these spin-offs and all these ports of the different Shin Megami Tensei games. What really scratched my head is when they announced the localization of Soul Hackers, which is kind of the quote-unquote. It is. Do you reckon? Is it a? I keep forgetting if it's a direct sequel. It's just a spiritual sequel.
No, it's not a direct sequel. It's definitely a spiritual sequel where it just takes the same aspects and then in a cyberpunkish setting.
I wish they brung the first one for the 3DS. That would have been amazing. Would have made the 3DS this Shin Megami Tensei hub of sorts. It would just be amazing.
Yeah.
It kind of is, I'll take that back. It already is.
Yeah, I recently was looking into all the Atlas developed games. Again, please people, once again, Atlas USA, they develop or they publish Atlas Japan developed titles, and they publish a lot of other Japanese titles not made by Atlas. Something I keep getting comments all the time on that, but Atlas developed titles, was looking into it, and I was looking at the list of 3DS games that they developed and that have been localized. All of them. All of them except for Etrian Odyssey Untold 2, which I'm pretty sure will be coming out. But all of them have been released so far, so they did a really good job there with localization. Except for, of course, the PSP. We missed out on Persona 2 Eternal Punishment. I forgot all about that one. It's technically out on the PS1, but I would definitely love to play the PSP upgrade in the style of Innocent Sin as well. I should have added that to my list. I would really like to replay that one in the more streamlined, more approachable style. Sadly, we missed out on Eternal Punishment as well for the PSP, but yeah, Devil Summoner. Hopefully one day.
Oh, hopefully, man.
Yeah. Well, to round out that one, I also have my number 2 entry, and this is actually the one that I'm the most excited for. And that is another spin-off game. Basically, after Shin Megami Tensei 1 and 2 came out, which are post-apocalyptic. Basically, the world goes to hell, everything, and people got to survive. But they basically came up with this idea: what if the post-apocalyptic events never happened, but demons still roamed the earth, or were somehow being able to get here? So what we got was Shin Megami Tensei If, and that is set in a high school setting. of course, nowadays high school settings and Shin Megami Tensei is linked to each other, maybe even social linked. But Shin Megami Tensei If came out in a time where we never had Persona. And Shin Megami Tensei If, it has the same cast, it has like a very Japanese high school student cast who get thrown into their high school. There's a lot of demons running around. They have to survive. It's on the Super Famicom. I've had a copy for years. I believe it's not the longest game out there. Some of the Japanese-speaking people have played through it. They say it's about 15 hours max. But it's still a game that I would really, really like to play. And the sad part about this all is that back in 2011, when I was getting into these games, 2012, Aeon Genesis was working on this translation. And there was one post saying, "Oh yeah, it's Shin Megami Tensei If fan translation. It will be coming out in a couple of weeks." It's now almost 2015 and still no release on it. So I'm very disappointed that it's still not out. And it's definitely a game that after Shin Megami Tensei 1 and 2, because it uses the same system but just a different setting, it's definitely another one of those missed gems that I want to play.
Absolutely. I've been looking forward to playing Shin Megami Tensei If. I know I have to complete 1, even though I played a crap ton of hours, and beat 2, but I'm really looking forward to If. I will say that the monster design, or demon design I should say, in that game is really messed up. Like, I've seen some of the designs, I'm like, whoa, even by Shin Megami Tensei standards, it's pretty out there.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's and of course, this in the end, it kickstarts it kind of kickstart the idea of going with Persona. Yeah. And Persona 1 came out, and Persona 2, and then they completely overhauled it with Persona 3 with the social link. So Shin Megami Tensei If and Devil Summoner. I really hope to be able to play those someday, together with, of course, Kyu-Yaku, but I can play that now. I just haven't gotten around to it. But there is still the hope that Shin Megami Tensei 2 for iOS happens, because the first one came out. And in Japan, Shin Megami Tensei If is already out on iOS. So Atlas USA, if they want to go that route, they just only need to translate it, and then we can actually play it. That would be another great option besides waiting for Aeon Genesis.
Absolutely, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. So I have a number 1 entry. It's a cop-out answer, and I'm sure you have it on your list as well. So let's just round out your list, and just, I'm pretty sure it's your number 1 as well. Otherwise, I'm very interested what your number 1 is besides my number 1. But
I'm very sure. I'm very certain we have the same. Mine's going to be a lot more in depth, though.
Yeah,
but, we'll see. Okay, this next one is going to be just a very short one. It is a Falcom game. It is Puffle Mail for the Super Nintendo. It is actually slightly different from the other versions, and it's really cool. I remember I got my copy of E6 Special Edition for PC, and it came with this disc of all these ads of 90s Falcom games, and it had the ad for Puffle Mail for Super Famicom, and the game looks really good, especially if you're into action RPGs and platforming. I've already played the Sega CD version. That's one of my favorite Falcom games of all time, and I've kind of been due for playing another version of Puffle Mail, and I just really want a fan translation for this game as soon as possible so I can delve back into the world of Puffle Mail. Pretty standard answer, but it's one of the games I'm definitely looking forward to.
All right.
Now, this next one, I've mentioned that my humble beginnings is that of being a Sega fan. There's this game, this crazy game that came out towards the end of the Dreamcast life, and it basically, if you're a Sega fan, this is your love letter. This is kind of your farewell, thanks for all the love. Thanks for all the fish. I like to say. It is Sega Gaga. And this game is odd but wonderful. You basically play as this kid who basically gets roped into working for Sega. And you go around during the development of a game and you fight other developers in the most odd way possible, and these developers are not humanoids. They have these artist representations of them in the most bizarre ways possible. The game is just one massive head trip, and it just looks like so much fun. What's really cool is some of the games that Sega Gaga has produced are all all parodies of famous games. They even parody Ys. They even got a parody copy of Ys in the company, which is pretty awesome, you know. And I should one day, if I could find all the images and post them to the RPG Gibberish face wall, so you can all have a laugh at all the games that they made fun of and made parodies of. But the game is amazing, and there's so much Easter eggs for the game. Like, I will just say one little bit of a spoiler is you actually finally get to see what happened to Alex Kidd after all those years leaving the limelight, and it's really heartbreaking.
Awesome,
At the same.
awesome.
So I've always known it, and now this is a game that has been in development. I have no idea what's happened to it. I've seen some screenshots. It looks really promising, but no version 1, no complete fan translation yet. I cannot wait till that happens. I don't know. I haven't delved into playing game, sort of, how would you say it, fan translated games on a Dreamcast. You know, some people say it's easy to do, but I'll have to look into it when that happens, because that's definitely a game I definitely want to play on my Dreamcast when it comes out.
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember, I forgot all about this game, but of course, Happy Console Gamers, one of its earliest reviews was on Sega Gaga.
Mm.
I've seen, some people pick up the limited edition box set that's out there, which looks
Yeah,
really nice.
one of the best ever.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a really tragedy to see this, and it's very strange to see that there's actually nobody actually working on a fan translation for this. Seeing how Sega is such a beloved, company in the world, and you would say that somebody would have taken a shot at it. Maybe they have, but it's just very hard to hack and translate it in. Um, I'm just interested to find out if there's a translation guide for it, but might actually be a way to actually play it and enjoy it. But yeah, Sega Gaga, very
Yeah.
interesting one.
I would definitely say it's still been worked on, but I think, very covertly. I reckon it'll just come out of the blue just one day. It's like, oh, it's done. And it'll be like, oh, wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. Did you have any other Dreamcast games on your list?
No.
All right,
I,
so that's good to know because there's actually one more that I would like to throw in here.
okay, cool.
It's a title that I've heard about quite often and seen some people pick it up. I honestly I have no idea at all what the game is about, but there's one interesting thing about it, and this is it's a game called El Dorado Gate,
Yeah.
and
It's
it's
actually,
like yeah, go ahead.
just very quickly, this should have been on my list as well. This
Okay,
really
yeah.
should have been.
I was always interested by the idea of El Dorado Gate because it's not just one game. It's like 7 parts or something, or 6 or 7 parts.
No, seven scenarios.
Like 7 scenarios. Like, holy shit, that's like one hell of a job to localize, of course. But I don't know anything about the gameplay or the setting. But just the idea of having this Dreamcast series that's like 7 games, that's just mind blowing. Uh,
This is going to be weird because I can actually rebuttal with a crap ton of information about the game.
oh, go ahead, go ahead.
Basically, it is made by Capcom, but it is very interesting. It is a 7-part game about this demon lord that basically one day got sealed and got split apart into 16 different entities. And the story is about these various people that was basically infused with one of the 16 parts of this demon lord. And that's pretty much all I know about it. I think there's just each disc basically tells the tale of about 1 to 3 characters per disc. And that's all. I haven't really spoiled too much about the game, but that's sort of what sets it up. And that's really interesting. The other interesting thing that I think Ero would definitely know about is the artist of the game is none other than Yoshitaka Amano. And what's really cool about the game is all his designs is actually digitized. All the monsters he actually did artwork in actually gets digitized into the game. So I reckon that's really cool.
Oh, the graphics. I'm just looking at some screenshots, which I never did before, but it looks really cool.
It is. It looks really cool. The games actually got released 2 months apart, which was really cool. So you got 2 months to play one of the discs, and then you'd wait for the next one. And just it was over the course of a year and a half that this game came out in its entirety. So really cool. I've always wanted it myself. I know there is a special edition. Well, I think with the 5th, it was either the 5th or 6th part, there was a special edition that came with a case for all of them. So that was really cool. I've actually seen the entire set with the case go on sale before, but I think it was like $150. I wish I got that, but no, really, really, really cool entry into the list, and I really like the opening theme is really, really cool as well. So definitely when we get to that part where all these wonderful Dreamcast RPGs need to be fan translated, and when they do, I'll definitely be there to play them.
Would you happen to know how roughly how long one of the discs is? Is it like 10, 15 hours, or is it like every disc is like 40 hours or some crazy stuff like that?
Oh no, I don't think each disc is long at all. I reckon it'd be 10 to 20 hours at max. I think someone was starting to upload the playthroughs of it, and I haven't checked back in a very long time. Like, I was really surprised when you brought up Eldorado Gate. I was like, wow, that should have been on my list, because I was absolutely obsessed with that game at one time. So yeah, definitely a really good choice.
All right, yeah, this is just some title I was thinking about, and just happy that I looked it up. So Eldorado Gate, it was also not brought up by any of our contest entries, because stick around, the contest is happening soon. But okay, great choice of Sega Gaga and Eldorado Gate. What else do you have on your list?
Okay, this is going to be the last one before the big one that we most likely both have. This was actually my number one, but I actually sat down and said, no, there's only one series that I know that I want more than anything. So this got regulated back to the second one, which I think, okay, if you've known me for as long as I've been on YouTube, the first video that I ever did, one day I thought to myself, I want to bring myself out to the world. I'm going to talk about Landstalker, The Treasures of King Nol, one of my favorite games of all time. There's actually a sequel to this game on the Super Famicom called Lady Stalker. And basically it's an action RPG that looks nearly identical to Landstalker with that isometric top-down view. And basically the storyline is really wacky and goofy. And you think with my current predicament I wouldn't care for it. But you have to understand there was a charm to 90s games that were comedic and goofy. And I actually like sort of the 90s sort of more goofball games like Pop for Mail. I really do get a kick out of them. And this game is just balls to the wall, really ridiculously funny. And basically you play as Lady, who basically is this mischievous young girl who basically likes to roam the land, likes to basically stick it to the authorities and everything. Another adventure game like Landstalker basically leads her to this island called the Deathland Island, where a treasure is waiting to be seeked out, very much like Landstalker. And she is basically chased by her two big servants, the gardener and the chef. And I have actually seen one video brought out by Aeon Genesis, and the attention to detail that this game is going to have is amazing. They purposely took the English font from Landstalker and inserted it into this fan translation, so it looks exactly like Landstalker in that regard, and I think that's really cool. Really cool for them to do. What's really good is this is more of an RPG, because in Landstalker you attacked all the enemies in real time, but you had sort of like a heart system very akin to Zelda. In Lady Stalker you actually have HP and levels, and you gain experience points, and you actually have random battles, which is really weird. Like, you'll be playing the game in real time, and then you'll have a random battle you have to clear before you can go to the next room or next area. So the game looks amazing for a Super Nintendo game. It's really super detailed, and I cannot wait for the day that this gets finished. This, like Aaron mentioned before with Shin Megami Tensei If, this is one that was announced ages ago. It's like, oh, it's going to be released soon, and it's kind of like 2 years later, it's still on 60%. So I'm looking forward to the day where it comes out of the blue. It's like, hey, Lady Stalker's finally done, and I'm like, that week, nothing will happen that week. It will just be Lady Stalker.
I can understand that wholeheartedly. You've been talking about this game quite often. I've heard you talking about on RPGIBBERISH quite a while. I've never played any of them. I've never played any of the Landstalker games, or Lady Stalker, of course, because it's not out. But I know you're such a big fan, and I really hope for you that one day it happens, and that you're able to get cracking on this for an entire week, for sure.
Absolutely. And now, dear listeners, the main event. And let's just say this. Does the company who made this game starts with an F?
Is it any surprise to any of our listeners? Like, seriously, dear listeners, take 10 seconds right now. What do you think that both Greg and I are excited for in terms of untranslated games that we cannot play in English? And we're not even talking about just one game in particular that is
No.
coming. We're talking about, all of them. We want it
And
all.
it's funny that you mentioned all of them as well, because I said no, there's not just one, all of them.
No, no, no. It's not just second chapter, which very quickly, people, I forgot this in the news segment. I don't know if you read it, Greg, but
I have.
the guy, the main translator on the Falcom forums, or sorry, Exceed forums, he actually said, "Yeah, guys, we apologize. We know full well that 2014 will most likely not happen. We know that we are pretty bad at announcing this stuff at the right time." But it's not going to happen in 2014 if you haven't figured it out already with only 2 months to go. I actually thought all the news announcements were locked, but apparently we can still get this collector's edition for Kingdom Hearts like 4 weeks in advance. But just getting sidetracked. Second chapter, no go for 2014. 2015, maybe. We'll have to wait and see.
And it's added to the epic pile once again. So
Oh yeah, but just as a reminder, 2015, Trails in the Sky second chapter, Persona 5, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, and I know I'm not that too hyped on it, but Xenoblade Chronicles X. Just think about those 4 titles right there.
and for me as well, I'm going to be importing Ys 8. So
Of
that's
course,
a
of
big.
course, yeah, I know. That was your big one from the last meeting, but just oh. But getting
Um,
back to it, Kiseki. Kiseki. That is like Trails. I want it. I need it. All of them. Just not only second chapter, but also the third and Zero and Ao and even Nayuta and even Ys versus Sora no Kiseki on the PSP. I want it all. I need
yeah,
it.
and the only difference between me and Era is I couldn't wait. I've played each and one of these games in various segments. So I can tell you that these need to be translated as soon as humanly possible. I've already played the prelude chapter for second chapter. You guys are in for such a treat, and it's so good. I played the prelude chapter to the third. That was really amusing and really epic. I cannot wait to play that. I have completely finished Zero no Kiseki, and I didn't understand mostly what happened in that game, but I talked to a couple of people, including Taylor, that sort of rounded off what happened. That game is probably one of the best RPGs I've played in the last couple of years, and I didn't understand most of it. And to all those that love first chapter, it's got that first chapter feeling about it again, but more dramatic because of the setting. It's such an amazing game, especially if you like sort of like that 1920s sort of metropolitan vibe, which the Crossbell City has, and it's so good. I mean, one of the enemies you fight is the mob, and they dress up like 1920s mobsters with the hats and the Tommy guns and everything. It's really cool. But beside that, there's so much political intrigue and things happening behind the scenes, and it's such an amazing game. And I will go as far as to say it has the best soundtrack of the entire Kiseki series. And oh, it is so good. And the thing that I'm scared about is that Zero and Al are going to be the two Kiseki games that may not be considered for official localization. I think they're going to be fan translated, and they're going to be some hefty games to work on. But my goodness, the payoff will be big. It will be massive. Two of the best games you'll ever get to play in your life. And I'm 25 hours into Al no Kiseki, and it's a great continuation. And what I like about the chapter I'm into now is it sort of brings back characters from all the Kiseki games, and it sort of brings the game back together. And it's like so awesome. And I'm like, damn it, this is such an amazing series. It'd be a crime for none of these games to be localized. Of course, they've recently had the Sen series, which focuses 2 games in the Albanian Empire, which you learn about in first chapter, and you play as a student squad of the Empire, and I really like what happens to them, or I should say, really, really awful for me to say that because a lot of shit happens, and all the horrors they have to endure in the second game, just awesome, just like the quintessential story RPG that you need to experience in this life. We need this. We desperately need this. And of course, Aaron mentioned Naruto no Kiseki, which is Falcom's traditional love letter game. It's kind of like their send off game saying, hey, thank you to all our PSP supporters. We're now going to give you this one last game. It's going to be a combination of everything we've done. It's a wonderful game that plays like, it looks like E7, plays like E7 Felghana, and has sort of the story and detail to sort of a Kiseki game, even though I'd probably say it handles more like an East game like Eastern Open Felghana in that regard. It has a food system very reminiscent of Zwei. I like the map selection. It's sort of reminiscent of the old epic platforming games back in the 16-bit era. Really cool. I like the fact that you replay these levels, that you can change the seasons. I like the fact that each level has free sort of missions for you to do, optional missions that give you more stars and everything. It's such a fun game. And Ero mentioned last, of course, East versus Solo no Kiseki. If you love Power Stone and you love Falcom, that is the game you will play to for the rest of your days. It's really good, and I reckon it'd be a game I could play professionally if anyone would consider to have a professional East versus Solo no Kiseki league. But this is no surprising coming from me, everyone. Falcom's my favorite developer of late, and I really love supporting them. And my Kiseki shelf is bursting at the seams. It's so big right now, and the fact that I do have these games at my fingertips and I can play them whenever I want. And I don't. I should have been out by now, but there's been too much coming out right now that I'm sort of biding my time for all this to happen. I reckon what will happen is as soon as I beat second chapter, I'm going to just go absolutely nuts, and I'll probably beat the entire series after I beat second chapter. So yeah, that's my end, and it should come as no surprise. Yeah, sort of the Kiseki series, the Trail series, it all needs to happen.
Yeah, definitely. It is. Um, the guys who've been following me as in terms of a game collector, I am very iffy with what I buy because I only buy games that I really want to play or can play. However, I do have a set of games that are just untranslated. And when I was in Japan this year, I really wanted to buy the Kiseki games just to future-proof myself because Trails in the Sky first chapter, it is in my top 5 Japanese RPGs of all time. It is a fantastic game. I absolutely love it. And just to see that there's no more games coming out, it is so disappointing. And um, honestly, if I had the money right now to hire people to actually translate
Mm.
it for me, like to make this is something like in my head. I think it's very viable if I can hire people to actually translate this for me, um, and then actually it doesn't even have to be like inserted in it or something, just to have all the text
Mm.
from left to right, so you have the Japanese text and then the English text next to it, so then you even can play it in Japanese with a translation guide. uh, that is the other option is of course to actually learn Japanese and to be able to play it like that. But I think it's actually a commercial very good idea to be able to sit down, and I don't know how much licensing is and all that good stuff, but I think it can be I can make a profit of getting these games translated and in the hands of gamers, because I know there's a big fan base for this. They want to play it, they want to buy it, I'm right sitting right here right now. Usually a game costs 50 euros brand new. I'm not kidding. I would drop down like 200-300 euros right now to be able to play the Kiseki games each. Or well, maybe not all of them, but I'm ready to spend the money for it. I'm just unable. It's not there. I cannot do it. But man, I really wish. I really wish that we could play these in English someday. And now they're at like insane expectation levels, but judging from first chapter, if it can match that charm, that humor, that whole character development and the gameplay system and the awesome music, you know, I will love it, and it is without a doubt. And I'm very interested what dear listeners have to think about this. But I think that the Kiseki series is the number one Japanese RPG series or games out there in Japan that needs to be brought over to the West to be able to enjoy it in English.
Absolutely. And you will enjoy the progression of the battle system because there is a lot of minor changes. It's probably the quintessential system that keeps taking small steps, but glorious small steps to make it similar, but a little more addicting each time. I heard the battle system in Senno Kiseki 2 is really strategic. You really have to know what you're doing, which sounds really interesting to me when I finally get around to playing that. Yeah, I think realistically, if we get this really good hardcore community to all pitch in, we like it's a non-profit organization. We all say hire like a translator just to say the third chapter, and just put the script in the hands of a few friends, not go crazy to the entire world yet because that might be frowned upon. But just for us and for our dear friends, if we can find a way to play like the third as soon as we're finished playing second chapter, that'd be amazing. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and I think honestly, I think this is, and I think we commented on this before. I think right now what needs to happen is Xseed and also Carpafoger, they don't have the resources and money to buy more translators to actually make progress.
Yeah.
But I think they also have now the rights and licensing things, and they're hoarding it. And I really think that they should just say, it's up for grabs. We really want it. We are passionate about it. You can hire us internally. We can help with it. But in terms of doing all the other stuff, some other bigger company needs to step up right here. And man, Atlas USA, if they would snag this up with the way they are localizing games, and the third, I can wait for a couple of years, but just start at Zero no Kiseki Evolution on the PS Vita. Just start right there, then do AO as well, and I'm convinced these would sell a lot. Even if the Vita is not selling millions of units, a lot of people would buy it because these are the games. And I really feel that next to Final Fantasy, next to Tales, and maybe even Fire Emblem and Bravely Default, which are the million unit JRPG sellers, I really feel that Trails in the Sky or Kiseki series, it can match those numbers because the games are that good. It can really be a million seller, and just right next to it, it's not as niche as say Artonelico or Atelier, or I really feel that the quality is there. It just needs to be brought up by a bigger company, marketed well, and gamers, JRPG fans will get rewarded with that other big one next to Persona, next to Tales, next to Final Fantasy. There is another one that is just up there. That's just popular. Everybody is playing it. Everybody is loving it. It will sell systems. I have this dream, man. I have this dream. But
We all do. There is a big passionate following for all things Kiseki, and like I said, one way or another, all these games will get available and be playable in English. And I'm along those lines that if I get handed a binder full of the entire translation, I will most happily use that. It doesn't need to be even inserted into the game because as soon as I get it, I'm there, man. I'm there. I'm going to finish them all. I like the fact that right now Falcom is taking a break because they're focusing on Ys 8. So in this last couple of years, if people do work really hard, we can sort of make a dent. And I wouldn't say we'd be able to catch up with them, but we can sure sort of, get it plan ahead, and yeah, hopefully one way or another. Because right now there is one guy who does spoiler-free walkthroughs. He does translate some of the finer details, but not the dialogue, and that's how I was able to beat Zero no Kiseki. But He's done it all the way up to Alno Kiseki. I haven't checked if he's done Sen yet. That'd be awesome. But, fans like that have just come forth and just helped everyone out. And I reckon in a couple of years' time, more fans will just come forth with their expertise and their talents and just lend it to, making this series playable for the English audience.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. We'll have to wait and see. There's right now it's so awesome, and there are many other games to play. Of course, I should not forget that there's many other games, and it's you can say argue you just play what you can play, but it's always good to be excited for something, and I'm really excited for this, and I think that finally being able to play second chapter, and I'm not even I'm not even, it's not an option. It won't disappoint me. I know for a fact that I will love second chapter for nostalgic reasons, because it's 4 years 5 years after first chapter. I will love it, and then I want the games even more. So
I just like the fact that at one stage this seemed like an impossibility because they couldn't encode the file correctly, and then someone at Falcom fixed it, and then they put it directly on PSN as soon as possible. And ever since they were able to do it, they brought out the HD editions on PS3, and then Xseed was able to finally consider localizing it. And I just think it's really awesome that never say never. Anything can happen. So I'm going to keep saying that for the series, and hopefully even in 10 years' time, I'll be sitting here saying, hey, that was an amazing series. I will say this, though, and I reckon it's an interesting thought to have. Some part of me, at one stage or another, wants the Kiseki side of the Legend of Heroes franchise to end, because then they can step forward and bring forth a new Legend of Heroes world, probably with the same quality as the Kiseki series. Do you know what the major difference is? Because they're starting at square one, the chances of that title getting localized is much greater.
yeah.
So if they decide to create another Legend of Heroes series, I'm all for that as well. I hope that happens sometime down the road where they can finally wrap up things. The thing about the Kiseki series, everyone, and I mean, I've played a lot of the games, is the world is so ambitious, you have no idea. It's really ambitious. And I thought to myself, maybe two might wrap it up. And I think I talked to Taylor, and he's like, yeah, I seriously doubt it. So it would be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of years, whether it'll be the final years for Kiseki. I can't talk about why it's such a great... There's a big reason why it's such a long-running series, because that reason will be introduced into second chapter. And hopefully when you learn about that element of the game, you'll be excited to play the rest of the series. So yeah, I'm probably gonna lose my voice if I talk so excitedly about this anymore. But yeah, guys, hopefully, and I know we've got a lot of listeners out there, a lot of great friends who listen to RPG Gibberish that are also big fans of Trails in the Sky, and I know they, like me and Arrow, just so very much wants to play the series.
Yeah, it's yeah, it is. And once again, just to reiterate, I know, dear listeners, if you have been with RPG Gibberish for a long time, we mention Trails in the Sky very often. If you haven't played Trails in the Sky first chapter yet, please owe it to yourself to pick up a copy. The PSN credit that we're giving away for the contest, please put it towards getting a copy of Trails in the Sky, whether it's physically or maybe digitally as well. You can play it on your PSP, you can play it on your PS Vita. It's on Steam as well for PC.
Yeah.
Just
if you're part of the PC Master Race, you finally can play it. And I can say this now, it runs amazing. It really, I said that in the TGS episode.
Yeah.
It's so mind-blowing how well it runs. So you have all these great avenues to play the game. There is no excuses anymore. There really isn't.
Yeah, just, you guys know me. I love my Persona 4. I love my Final Fantasy, especially 8, and Suikoden 1 and 2. But if there's any JRPG I can get you to play and recommend to you, it is Trails in the Sky first chapter. It is just everything that I look for in a Japanese RPG. It might not be the most mind-blowing, darkest, epic twist story there, but it is so relaxed, so charming. The world oozes with charm. It's a great turn-based game, and I know we have not done a full episode on it, so to say, here on RPGibberish, but and I think I've actually never done a real review on my channel as well for first chapter, but I talk about this game often, and it needs to be played. And I know that makes it like unsurmountable expectations for listeners who haven't delved into it. But the few people that actually have played it after my recommendation and other people, they loved it, and they are here sitting waiting for second chapter, and just go for it. That's the one thing that I would like to hope that everybody hopefully does. And yeah, this has been a great episode. We're not done yet, but I really I love talking about untranslated games and all this good stuff, and especially the ones that we agree on is Kiseki. It needs to happen. But other than that, there's been some great titles that I've learned about. So, Greg, anything to add before we get into the great contest?
No, we've wrapped it up. It's been a really, really good episode. Of course, with our minds combined, we would probably educate a lot of people on all these obscure, awesome RPGs, and hopefully we can get some of our faithful listeners to take an interest in one of them. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, definitely, highly agreed. So, for those out there waiting for the results on the contest, once again, a couple of days before we set out to recording this, I thought it would be a good idea to kind of reward the listeners and to also prepare for this episode. So, what I did is I posted in the Facebook community for RPGibberish the question: let us know your most anticipated untranslated game. So a game that's out in Japan, not out in English. Some people misinterpreted. I apologize for my wording, where they were also mentioning fan translations and stuff like that. But no, we were looking for games that are just not available in English. And we got a lot of great entries in there. Let me count. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 entries even. That is really, really great. We got a lot of our faithful listeners, also some people that have their own dedicated YouTube channels here as well. And they brought up some interesting titles that I had absolutely never heard of, and I really, really needed to research. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be reading out the individual posts, and then Greg will briefly comment on the game mentioned, whether he knew about this title, whether he is interested in it, and I will do the same. And then after that, after we've gone through the list, we will announce sort of the winner of the entry that we liked the most. That is going to be getting about €10 or $10 of PSN credit. Hopefully, put that towards your Japanese RPGs. If you have PSN, otherwise I'll probably PayPal it. We'll figure out the details with the actual winner instead of just doing it that way. But we'll announce a winner, and then I have here a hat with all the entries in here that we will randomize, of course, except for the winner. So you cannot actually win twice here. We gotta be kind to other listeners as well. But yeah, I will pick out somebody at random, and then I'll contact you on Facebook. So thanks in advance, once again for the entries. Maybe we'll do this more often to to not only get the listeners to help out with a topic, but also get you guys involved into it and all that good stuff. There might not always be a contest and prizes with it, but we really appreciate you commenting so far. And the people that did comment, they also have been commenting on other posts, and it's really, really great and really drives us forward to continue with not only RPGibberish as a podcast, but also as a community and post more in Facebook. So big thanks to everybody who has been entering this contest and talking on the Facebook. We really, really appreciate it. So with that being said, I'm going to be reading out the entries right now. And we are going to be starting with Michael Yanacito, a great friend here for me personally on Facebook as well, and has been a great JRPG fanatic. He brings up 4 titles. The first being Romancing Saga 2. How about that, Greg?
Good old Michael. We talk every day, and he's a good friend of mine too.
Yeah, me too.
We've talked about the Saga series at great length. I definitely want to play all the Romancing Saga games at one stage. I actually did play a bit of three, and I was overwhelmed at all the content that you were able to choose at the start of the game with all the multiple characters. I looked briefly at number two, and it is definitely a nice looking Super Famicom game. I haven't looked too far into it, but it is most definitely high up there that I definitely want to play for my Square Soft games.
All right. Yeah, Romancing Saga for me. I very funnily I had the entire trilogy on the Super Famicom. I just parted with them yesterday. They are going to somebody who will probably treat them more better than just collecting dust in my collection. But to my knowledge, on romhacking.net, none of the three games have been localized in English except for partial translations. So that is a little bit sad to hear, but I don't know the differences between 1, 2, and 3. Michael didn't really put any, sadly didn't put any descriptions in his entries, but Romancing Saga, if I hear more people and their fan translations out there, and these are like overlooked Square games, then I'll definitely try to play them again and get them back in the collection.
Number two is a really good one.
Yeah, no, definitely. I have many other Square games yet to play, like Live a Live and Bahamut Lagoon and Treasures of Rudras, which did get a fan translation. So once I get through it, then we'll get back to Romancing Saga. Now he gave out 4 entries, and the second one is a game that I'd never heard of before. And it is... Oh yeah, this is what I'm interested in. It is Wachenroder. Those Japanese with their German titles, man. It is a Sega Saturn strategy RPG, and I must say, when I looked up the intro and some gameplay, it looks really tempting, but I knew nothing about it. I don't even know who developed it, so Greg, enlighten us.
I believe it's in-house at Sega, and the thing that most Sega Saturn owners knows, like myself, the Sega Saturn was a powerhouse for strategy RPGs. There are so many on the system that people don't know about, but this is one of them. Of course, whenever you say strategy RPG for Sega Saturn, things come to mind. It's either Shining Force 3 or the first Dragon Force. But Wachenroder is this really interesting steampunk strategy RPG. So it looks like it's the same vein. When you look at the movement screen, it reminds me of Final Fantasy Tactics and Vandal Hearts.
Yes.
But then when you go into the battle system, it's sort of got that sort of cutscene sort of graphics that you would see in Shining Force 3. So it's really cool. The one thing I should tell everyone that people saw the intro and was blown away, that's actually live footage. That's not, the Sega Saturn is not capable of those graphics.
Yeah, no.
They had the picture of the female character with like the resin figure, and they obviously took a camera and did all those shots. And apparently if you have the MPEG video card that's separate, but you install it, that opening video runs a lot better. So it's really cool. No, it's been on my list for a long time now. I'm kind of on a hiatus from getting stuff from eBay because I've suffered a real tragic blow where one of my holy grails got shipped back.
So sad. So sad.
And it has really discouraged me from buying anything from eBay for the rest of 2014. But I would probably go as far as to say is that's probably my most desired Sega Saturn game is Wachenroder. So
I had never heard of it before, but it's great. It really looks nice. Sadly, though, I looked into it. There's no known fan translation in the works or something like that.
No.
So yeah, we're probably missing out on this one. But it looks like a very tempting title, and of course, if you want to play it but not understand the story, then you can because it's in Japanese. And it looks like a very nice strategy RPG, and I know that Michael loves his strategy RPGs. Reading his pain to go through Vandal Hearts 2 on Facebook, I think he talked to you about this as well. But Vandal Hearts 2, man, the pain he went through earlier this year, I suffered with him.
Yeah, I've played a bit of Vandal Hearts 2 back when it was released. Oh my goodness. That game had a lot of potential, but boy, did they go crazy with that game design.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. You guys know me talking about losing progress. the pain that Michael told me on Facebook, I don't want to go through that. Like losing like 2.5 hours on an entire difficult battle. No, no, no,
Yeah.
no. This is either save states or it's not going to happen at all.
Just a big shout out to our friend Dustin Christ. I've been listening to AEGP. I like the fact that he refers to Fro's control as spiking it. I reckon that's awesome, and that's definitely a control spiking moment.
Yeah, I can understand wholeheartedly. That's definitely the case. All right, so that was Wachenroder. Then we have another title which I'm sure you're familiar with. It's Dragon Force 2.
And that has had some tremendous fan translation news. I can't remember it's finished because there was this great big campaign for it. So I don't know if it's been completed yet, but I think that's going to be a game when it has the next big push that's going to get fully translated without a shadow of a doubt.
So just to reiterate, Dragon Force, it has nothing to do with Shining Force, right? But it is
No,
on Sega, right?
yeah, it's another Sega in-made game, and it's a really weird sort of strategy RPG where it focuses more on forces. Kind of, the war battles from Suikoden 1,
Yeah,
where it
yeah,
has
yeah.
both army. It's kind of like that, but it's much more focused on the individual fighters. You can't select them, but there's a more emphasis on the resources of each side, and you do have control over, I think, either the commanding character to perform certain moves. I haven't played it yet, but I actually own the PS2 copy that I have. I can actually play it at any time, and I actually need to so I can finally talk about how the game plays. What's really funny is my friends over at Power On Podcast, they are not fond of the game.
Hmm.
They don't really care for it,
All
which is
right.
interesting. So I'm going to be interested until when I get to finally play it and see my opinions. But I really like the art design. I really like the soundtrack as well. But it would have been a game I would have just played crazy hours if I got my hands on it. And I actually found out only a couple of years ago that there was a PAL copy of the game, but it must have been so limited it didn't even come anywhere close to my neck of the woods back in the day.
Hmm. Yeah, I understand. I understand. All right, good to know about that. Then his fourth entry. Yeah, we said three, but I'm counting this as well. It's Near Replicant. So just to reiterate, Near, it came out on PS3 and Xbox 360, but that was actually the version called Near Gestalt in Japan. There was actually two versions. It plays out pretty similar, but the story is different. And there's a lot of dedicated Nier fans out there that would like to experience the other sort of story. I know that Nier is much beloved, and I know people like Dustin Christ, they are also interested in playing Nier Replicant. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe there's a story guide out there on GameFAQs that you can use. But it's a good title. I understand why it was never localized, as it's they just fixed with one version. But Near Replicant, yeah, I think that's a good entry.
I will just iterate saying that whenever Arrow is ready to play Nier, I'm going to be playing right by him because I still need to beat Nier as well. And I like the reaction that we got in the first weeks of RPG Gibberish of other people willing to play it at the same time as well. I reckon that would be an awesome activity to have.
Yeah, an update on that. I have the game now. It's in my possession on the 360. I just beat Alien Isolation. So I'm right now playing through. Sorry guys, but it's Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. I
Shame
apologize.
on you.
It's a guilty pleasure. Once I get through it, it's either going to be Nier or Persona Arena Ultimate. So I think I'm edging towards Nier. So I think I'll play it at least in the rest of November. Hopefully I
I
can
think
finish it.
I'd probably leave it open then because I really want to beat Star Ocean 4 and
Yeah.
then probably leave it open to play Nier. But I have this feeling that around the time when I'm finishing Star Ocean 4 and we're both going to be ready, there's going to be a very big release for everyone who owns a Wii U.
That's
So,
true. Yeah, that's true. It's still my goal to beat Nier before the end of the year, and I'll talk to you in the upcoming episodes that are early 2015. But Operation Nier, Operation Grandia, mission, or what, I forgot the name about it. I apologize.
No, you got Operation Grandia is correct.
Yeah,
So,
Operation Grandia. That was the name that the Hexagon gamers when they sent me
well,
near.
it might have been Project Grandia. I'm not too
Yeah,
sure.
no,
Ah,
it's
they're
yeah,
good
that
games.
is it. I mix up
Yeah.
project and operation. It's Project Grandia, Operation Near. Is to me get to replay Near. I only played it for an hour, but yeah, Near Replicant. Hopefully, I might be the same. Once I play it and I love it, then I want to play the other version as well. But great entries by Michael. Thanks a lot for your entries. So let's move on
Good
to
on you, Michael.
yeah, definitely. So let's move on to the other one. Next one is Mark Vrijnhoek, a fellow Dutch JRPG fan. He brings up his first entry is Dragon Quest VII, the 3DS version. Yeah, I think the entire Japanese RPG community is waiting for that one.
Yep.
Good entry. Secondly, it's Yakuza 5. We have another Yakuza fan here.
Yep.
We already talked about Yakuza earlier in the episode, so great entry. Then he retroactively retracted this one, but he entered Kingsfield 1, the original Kingsfield 1. They mixed up, I see, something to do with the versions. It's the Japanese version, not the American version, that is actually called Kingsfield 1. That is actually Kingsfield 2. I looked into it. I never heard of it. It's a PS1 title, a Japanese RPG. And I am very happy to announce, if you didn't know already, but on romhacking.net, there's a fully playable patch out there for your PSX. So just go ahead, get the ROM, patch it, and then play it on your PS1 or PSP if you're a big fan of Kingsfield. But I think he already knew about it because he retracted it. But have you heard of the Kingsfield games before, Greg?
Yes, I've played the English version of one, and that game is not fun. No, I think it was one of the first PS1 games I got to play, and it was the game that sort of made me very cautious of From Software. I know a lot of people love Kingsfield, and it's one of those games that I'm sort of. I have to be honest. I think, if anything, it was a great test on what the PlayStation 1's 3D capabilities were. It was really basic, but at the same time, it was really early title that showed off what the PS1 could do. And I was kind of thankful, but I couldn't beat the game. I think my brother did. Bless him. But yeah, not for me. Just not for me. Serious is not for me.
I just want to reiterate that to involve the community more, I think we sadly just lost somebody. It's Dustin Kreis. When you mentioned From Software, he just stopped listening. So we joke about this in the community that I'm not a fan of the Souls games because I haven't played them, but Dustin is really opposed to them for some reason. But that's always interesting. I wasn't aware that Kingsfield was from Software. But all right, that's good to know that is. That you have some experience with that. But it's out there, so you can play the original Kingsfield 1, Mark, if you want to. But his real entry, which is in a game that I've known about, is, now here we go, Shinsei Mokushiroku Death March. It is because I have not played it, but I know about this, of course, thanks to X-Core Muffin X again. It is a PC, now wait for it, it is a PC first-person dungeon crawler, and it's dabbling in the eroge hentai stuff. There are some disturbing hentai scenes in here, but the thing is, it is written by the guy who also wrote Shin Megami Tensei 1 and 2. Now, I've watched Joe's Corn Muffins 25-30 minutes video on it, and it sounded really tempting. However, though, this is a PC hentai-ish game. I have absolutely like, if I had to pronounce it in like a percentage, this would be like a 0.07% that this was ever getting localized. But it's a good choice nonetheless, because I don't know if you've watched Joe's video on it as well, Mark, but it sounded really interesting.
Well, you're referring to Mark in the chat.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah.
No. Have I heard of it? I I'm not really that deep knowledgeable about either eroge or hentai RPGs, simply because I actually seen a few, and I will say this now, most of them are boring as sin. I mean, it's all about the action and not about the RPG action.
Yeah.
And I mean, most of them are boring, and the stories. They're there to just facilitate the sex. That's it. You know, I'm guessing there'll be someone that will come out and say, "Hey, there is some examples where the story is really good and you'd be surprised." And I really want to hear about those contraries to the rule. You know, if there was a story that more focused on the characters who just happen to eventually have sex. I mean, hey, that'd be cool. I've always talked about how I would like RPGs to be more mature and probably handle it in a much more mature sort of fashion where it's not that gratuitous, but you would understand that, hey, maybe there'll be an RPG with, adult characters. And of course, with most of these JRPGs, you're sort of focused towards teenagers. They can only probably at most do a kiss, and that's understandable because that's towards that sort of audience. But for those RPGs, say like Xenogears, that are more targeted to an older generation, then I wouldn't be surprising that there was. Okay, it's a little minor spoiler, so I would say go forward a minute. But there is actually a sex scene. You don't see anything, but it kind of showed the passion towards the two main characters, and it was really handled really well. And I said, more games should do this. You can have adult variant content, but they don't have to be that gratuitous. Because the more gratuitous they are, it loses that emotional connection.
I'm just going to throw this out there. Catherine. Yeah. Catherine on the PS3 and Xbox 360.
Yeah.
I heard they handled that one. That finally delved into that realm of, adult territory without being, and I understand it because it's consoles and they have limitations, and this is why it's a PC hentai game that Mark mentioned. But usually it's visual novels that are like this, but they can do it with RPGs as well. They should do it. I see no reason why they should not. But maybe one day we're ready. I don't have any issues with it whatsoever. I know there's a lot of reservedness, I would say, from what I've noticed as a European, especially in the US, in regards to the whole sex topic. But I don't mind it myself. I can handle it. I'm a big boy.
No, I find it really intriguing when someone brought that up, and I reckon that is the next step forward for certain gaming. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. The next game I reckon that has potential to talk about it sort of maturely, I reckon it'd be Metal Gear Solid 5. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. But,
definitely. I hope that it grows, this whole topic and the stuff about it in a mature way. It's still being looked at, like, oh yeah, you have Grand Theft Auto 5 and you can go and have sex with prostitutes, like
big one, God of War.
Yeah, precisely. But that's all handled it's all handled in an immature fashion. But then sometimes there are games like Catherine that come along that do it very well. And
I will say the story segments is okay. This is going to get another major reaction from most of the listeners. I actually have not played Catherine yet.
Yeah.
So I've seen the story segments and they're awesome, but the puzzle gameplay is the thing that puts me off the most.
Yeah, you're not the only one. I've been recommending this game to many out there. I have failed in some. Many enjoyed it, but I failed I failed my recommendation with somebody who absolutely did not like it because of the puzzle gameplay. But the story is really great, though. The Catherine story is great, and I just love puzzle games. I love Atlas, so I loved it even more. But if you are struggling with puzzles and having to solve things on the fly because it's an action-packed puzzle game, then it's definitely it's a tricky game to get into, even on the easiest setting.
All right.
But all right.
That was a last interesting entry from Mark, so good on you, mate.
Yeah, definitely. All right, moving on. We have just a quick shout out to Bernardo. He is recently starting up his own YouTube channel called The Outdated Gamer. So great for him to be joining the community. He's not that hardcore into Japanese RPGs, I know, more into fighting games, but it's great to see new people joining our community with channels as well. So welcome. And
Very
Bernie,
warm welcome.
yeah, definitely. As always, we are very appreciative for new channels. And he was interesting because he actually was the one who said Sega Gaga because he's a huge Sega fan. And he mentioned in his comment, really fun game. It's like a parody of Sega characters and other companies all mixed into one really good JRPG. Too bad that there isn't a translation yet. So great choice, great choice.
Yeah, no, it was already on my list, so I was looking forward to seeing who would be one of the first people to mention one off my list, and it was really cool. Bernie said Sega Gaga. I was like, yeah, awesome, awesome, man.
Awesome one, definitely. All right, but we've talked about that one before, so we're moving on. We have here,
Yeah.
I apologize for mispronouncing your last name, it's a tricky one, Sarah Zever. She mentions, I'd answer the post Trails in the Sky second chapter titles. Well, we're with you on that one, but that's too obvious with you guys. So she knows us too well. Very, very true indeed. However, let's see what she mentions. Instead, I'll stick with the Seven Dragon trilogy. Seven Dragon on the DS was a semi-clone of Etrian Odyssey. It was directed by the director of the first Etrian Odyssey game, Kazuya Ninu, and the music is done by Yuzo Koshiro, which also did the score for Etrian Odyssey. I know that, yes. But its sequels on PSP, Seven Dragon 2020 and 2022, switch the storyline to a post-apocalyptic Japan. These are dungeon crawler games, and even though they are very English friendly with their half translated menus, I'd love to know what's actually going on during the games. Incidentally, these Image Epoch games, there we have it again, are published in Japan by Sega. Hatsune Miku even appears in the 2020 titles as a, I believe, non or playable character. So if they
Yeah.
were localized, their lineage with Etrian Odyssey would be reinforced with Sega's Link to Atlas. So
Now,
this is a great entry just from the get-go. This is what I wanted to see, like passion and inspiration. I don't know about you, Greg, but we have a potential here on our hands. But Seventh Dragon, I have some good news. But Greg, go ahead first.
okay, this is actually was gonna one I was gonna read out, but when I saw Sarah's answer, I reckon I said to myself, you know what? When the contest part comes around, we'll talk about the series very briefly when we mentioned this that she posted that. Like the other Image Epoch games, Seventh Dragon's very highly up there for more reasons than one. She's mentioned all the minds behind it. I'm actually going to throw one more to the mix. And when I found out this person was a part of the team, it became a must-have game. Basically, she's mentioned the music's from Yuzo Koshiro, Kazuyo Nino, awesome. The game is actually produced by Reiko Kodama, and for anyone that doesn't know, she is the main brainchild behind the original Phantasy Star series.
Ooh.
So immediately, this game has a lot to live up to. She was only in the producer role, but I noticed some of her ideas probably came to the threshold because the towns and the structures give off a Fancy Star vibe, and I really like that. Even though the character designs a very chibi style, I actually learned about this game within. I think they did a countdown way back in the day, and I was counting down because hey, it was another Sega RPG, and I was like, oh, it'd be cool if this could come out in English, and unfortunately, it never did. But this game has always been really high up on my list. Once again, it's another crazy Image Epoch collaboration with another big company. I never thought that there'd be one game, let alone three now, which is amazing, and I really want to get into them. I definitely want to get them for my collection at one stage. But yeah, it does have that Etrian Odyssey vibe to the battle system, but instead of having the little sort of swipes and everything, you do see the characters sort of come out of the screen and swipe, and it's really charming. Um, I really want to play this game. One of them. I really want to play the DS game, and hopefully, with this so-called good news that Era's going to briefly talk about, maybe that'll become a reality.
Yeah, so I'm going to mention him again. I found out through this series. I knew about this for a while, but I know that Corn Muffin, he has played them. He recommends Seven Dragon 2020 more so than the DS one, which is a more fantasy-esque style. But he recommends all three of them to check out. I have some good news though, some very good news. Seventh Dragon on the DS is fully playable. If you have a flash card, you can get a ROM, you can patch it. You can enjoy some Seven Dragon, kind of like you can also enjoy Soma Bringer by Monolith Soft. and many other DS titles like Fire Emblem 12 and Ace Attorney Investigations 2, just because I wanted to throw it out there. But Seventh Dragon is fully translated, so go out and enjoy it. Now, Seven
That's good
Dragons,
news.
that's great news. Sadly, Seven Dragon 2020 on the PSP and the second game 2020 second on the PSP are not yet fan translated. I don't know if it's in the works. I couldn't find anything on it. But to be honest, those seem more tempting to me because of the whole post-apocalyptic style. But seeing how Seven Dragon on the DS is actually out there, and I also recently got a copy of Soma Bringer, thanks to one of our great listeners, Oricon. I wanted to play that, and that maybe gets me in the mood to play some more DS titles, so I might pick up Seven Dragon as well.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so the fan translation community, they are not sitting on their asses over there. They do stuff. So Seven Dragon, it's out there. So Sarah and many of our other listeners, if you want to get into Seven Dragon, you can go right ahead and get yourself a ROM copy of it.
Really good choice, Sarah.
Yeah, definitely. This is a contender here. Let's move on though. We have some more entries. We have Nadav Brown. He mentioned there was some miscommunication with his entries, but in the end, he went with, I thought about Famicom game. It's Jump Hero Redsuden and its sequels, which are action RPGs in the Shonen Jump universe. So for those not aware, Shonen Jump is the manga anime thingy in Japan. That's like kind of like a collaboration company that arranges all this stuff. They have things like Naruto, and they also did Death Note and One Piece as well. Many stuff. And they do these collaboration games, which kind of like Smash Brothers. I know there was one on the DS fully translated. But he actually wants this game called Jump Hero Redsuden on the original Famicom, which is extremely interesting because I'd never heard of it before. It's sadly not translated, so I cannot give you a warm welcome in saying it's out, but it looked nice from the couple of minutes that I saw.
Yeah, I watched the video a long time ago on the game, so it looked interesting. I think I was doing a quick look at any of the Famicom/NES RPGs I might want to attempt to play, and that was one of them I looked up. So.
Yeah, for me personally, the one that's still there that's already translated is Sweet Home. Which is kind of like this survival horror / Japanese RPG one. That is one I really want to play.
Can I say something? That game looks fucked up. And I'm one of those guys that's minimalist is more frightening. Like if you have a game like Resident Evil 4 that's very visual heavy and with everything it's done, that's not really as frightening as say something on the Master System or the NES that I would find far more frightening. And I looked at one movie and I was like, a video of the game, I was like, fuck this.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it is a game that has been on my radar for many years. I very fondly watch Happy Video Game Nerd, and he actually got me into Earthbound with his glowing review, and he actually did one on Sweet Home. And I just haven't gotten around to it after so many years. I think it's already out for like a couple of years now, his review, but hopefully I can get around to Sweet Home on the Famicom. Hopefully in 2015 maybe. It is a very interesting Famicom JRPG. Alright, so next up is another second entry, which is Rurouni Kenshin Kenyaku Romanten Yuyushi Inbuhen for the PS1. So it is a Rurouni Kenshin RPG for the PS1. Again, I had heard absolutely nothing about it. Looked it up. If you're a Kenshin fan, then I would say yes, that's very interesting. Sadly, no fan translation of this exists. But interesting to see that many of these anime adaptations get a Japanese RPG.
Oh, big time in the Super Nintendo era. Like, there are so many RPGs based on anime series for the Super Famicom.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the ones I was actually going to be... Okay, now we've probably had this little bits and pieces of finding out that there are fan translations for certain games, and it's a great feeling because you're certain that there isn't, but there is. There was actually a game I was going to put on my list, but then I did my research and found out there's a fan translation for it. One of my favorite anime series, Slayers, has an RPG for this Super Famicom, and I actually recently found out tonight that it has a fan translation. So I'm definitely thinking about playing that one day.
Awesome, awesome. That's very cool. Of course, when you find out that one of the games you're interested in is actually translated. I myself, I've not really been into Kenshin, Rurouni Kenshin. I've watched the OVAs, but never watched the main series, so I'm not really a fan.
I'm the opposite. I've watched the main series. Well, the two arcs of the two of the three arcs. I haven't watched the OVAs yet.
Okay, okay. I heard it was a very good series in the 90s. I just never gotten around to it. But for the Kenshin fans, there is an RPG out there, but it's sadly only in Japanese. So we'll see how that goes. And then he also added in Sakura Wars 1 and 2. Or 3 and 4 actually. He mentions, I'm not 100% sure. I think that the first and second game were translated, at least the PC versions. Sadly though, none of the first 4 Sakura Wars games are out there. They are fan translated in the sense that there's a guide for them.
Yeah.
Actually, one of our faithful listeners, Mario from the Excellent Gamers one, he recently sent me a copy of Sakura Taisen 1 and 2 for the PSP. He mentions to me that they are one of his favorite franchises and he really wanted me to delve into it. He mentions that the games are, despite the fact that they're strategy RPGs, more focused on the visual novel aspect, which is what got me over the edge and interested in them. So hopefully I'll be playing them on my PSP soon with the translation guide. But official, playable in English, sadly not. I did find that there was a PC one in the works, but it was never completed. And in terms of Sakura Wars, only the 5th game is of course out in English on the Wii and PS2, but the first 4 ones sadly have not. But Sakura Taisen, that's definitely one that I want to get into soon.
Yeah, I think I'm well overdue to get into Sakura Taisen. I've already seen the OVA. There is actually a TV series of it as well, but I've watched too many videos on sort of the opening of Sakura Taisen on the Sega Saturn. I'm basically wondering if I should get both games on Saturn because I'd be able to play them easy, but then I could get 1 and 2 on the PSP. I could also play that easier, and I reckon that'd be an awesome game to have on the go as well. So
Yeah.
I think PSP might be the way to go.
Yeah, I wasn't even aware that there was a PSP title except for Saturn and Dreamcast until Mario brought it up. But I have one in my collection now, and hopefully I'll get around to it soon. But Valkyria Chronicles 3 will go first. All right, so those were the entries by Nadav. Very obscure for the most part. Very obscure indeed. Let's move on to Femtrooper. She mentions, I wish Sailor Moon Another Story for the Super Famicom was released in English for the SNES. Now she also mentioned, I've played a little bit of it on a ROM, but it just didn't feel the same. I would love to see it as a digital download on, or even on Virtual Console, or even a release on the 3DS since Sailor Moon Crystal is on. Maybe there's more Sailor Moon hype. A girl can dream. Just from the get-go, I know about the name Sailor Moon. I have not watched it. I have no idea what's it about, and I realize that it's more aimed towards women, especially teenage girls, maybe. But I was unaware that there was a Super Famicom game for it, which, wait for it, Paige mentioned this already. There is a fully playable patch for this SNES Sailor Moon game available, so you can play it in English, you just have to ROM it. Yeah, I don't know, listeners. Any other Sailor Moon fans out there? Greg, are you a Sailor Moon fan?
Hey, it wasn't just girls, Arrow. No, actually, there's a lot of people that I've met that watch Sailor Moon. If you back when it was released on Australian TV, you had to know that there was nothing else on, and I was slowly getting into anime at that point. I think it was like a year or two before Evangelion was aired on TV, and I really liked the art style, and it is aimed at girls, and the dub made it a lot more kiddish than it should have been, but there was still teenage themes to deal with, and I was sort of at that age. I think I might have been 10 or 11, and I was interested in sort of teenage storylines and all that. And you know, me being an RPG fan, most of the situations were crazy. The villains that they fought would only exist in an RPG or anime. So I kind of got to it, but it wasn't something you shared in the schoolyard. But I watched a lot of Sailor Moon. Did I watch it all? No, I kind of lost interest, I would say, towards the 60% I would say mark of this entire series. But I enjoyed what I watched of it, and I know the new series just came out, and that's going to be more user friendly with only 26 episodes. But I'm watching a lot of anime as it is, and maybe one day I'll have an interest to watch it. I know that they're only getting released, I think, monthly. The episodes either monthly or, you know, but I don't know how crazy it is. But yeah, it's interesting. Like I'm a big fan of magic, and I can definitely say that there's a lot of magic in the Sailor Moon. Sort of that's what the Sailor Scouts used to fight. They use all sorts of different spells and techniques and various things, including a tiara that turns into a discus. I'm not going to go into it anymore, but yeah, I wouldn't say like I'm a huge Sailor Moon fan, but I am proud to admit that I did watch the original series.
All right, good to know, and a great entry from Paige. So if you want to, you can play it on a ROM. Um, I understand if you are interested in playing it actually on the SNES though. Moving on to somebody I envy very much, especially in regards to this topic. It's Oricon, and he has a YouTube channel as well. This guy is fully fluent in Japanese, so by default I have disqualified him from this contest because he can actually play all the games we're talking about. He loves this game so much that even though there's an English version out, he just imports the sometimes even more expensive Japanese one to play it in Japanese. So stop flaunting it in our face. But in any case, it's all good here. Oricon is in the Accent on Gamers chat on Facebook, and I talk to him on a daily basis. Really great guy. But he mentions, from him, even out of himself, he says, haha, I know I'm disqualified, but I would throw in Moe Moe Daisenso Gendaiban Plus Plus Premium Edition for the fun of it. Can't quite bring myself to commit the money to buy it. I have no idea how expensive this premium edition is, but just briefly before the recording started, I looked this up. It's a PSP or PS Vita title. It's kind of is a very cheery, happy, because it's Moe. That's like the type of very cutesy anime girl stuff, like an SRPG, a strategy RPG with some crazy. I watched the gameplay trailer for it, and of course, being a Moe game, you actually have the opportunity to look at female artwork, hit your PS Vita touchscreen, and then slowly but surely undress them. So it looked pretty bad. This is definitely not something that I can play in the train. I am actually, like I mentioned, looking into getting Senran Kagura Bon Appetit, the rhythm cooking game from Senran Kagura, which is kind of similar. But yeah, interesting choice. Do I think it will ever be localized? No. But Moe Moe Daisensho Gendaiban Plus Plus. Man, that's an interesting choice indeed.
Hey man, there'd be a great demand for Moe Moe Daisenso Gendaiban. I can't say that with a straight face. Nah, man, really cool. Good for a laugh, man. Of course, nowhere near the sort of game I would play. So,
but it's interesting. We have a lot of games like Senran Kagura's being localized, and we have Akiba's Trip as well. There's a lot of these quirky-ish, aimed at the more risky female anime girls and undressing them type of games, whether it be JRPGs or not. They're coming out. So Axis, man, they're doing that stuff.
And a big shout out, or was it Oricon? Because he comments on my videos sometimes. I actually never really talked to him, but he seems like a really interesting guy. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's a really great guy to talk to on Facebook, and he doesn't really do videos that often, but he's really passionate about Japanese games as well, and him being able to play them in Japanese is something I really envy. He even did some. He even has another channel which is about learning Japanese, which I was watching before I even talked to him. So and just as a final shout out to Orcon, the guy actually helped out with the Ace Attorney investigations to fan translation, and
Oh wow,
he's actually in the credits. So
that's crazy. I
that's
did
really
not know.
awesome.
Man, I'm a big Ace Attorney fan. I need to one day sit down and play the investigation games. I need to download. Man, I need to download bloody five.
Yeah, definitely. But we'll save Ace Attorney for another time. But great entry from Oricon. I'm just kidding. You will be thrown in the contest as well. I was just kidding around. Then we have Senkai, of course, the other half of Accent on Gamers. I've been thinking about this a lot, and the obvious answer for me would be one of the older Tales games. Just as a reminder, all the main Tales games, not counting which version came out on which platform, but every main entry of the Tales series can be enjoyed in English except for Tales of Destiny 2 and Tales of Rebirth on both on
Yeah.
PS2. But maybe Senkai was referring to maybe some sort of version like Fantasia on the PSP that's never been translated, which is but okay. Um, he actually mentions, but to be honest, I am really hyped for the new Shining Resonance, and it would be fantastic if that game would be localized. Shining Resonance was, of course, recently announced at TGS. I am not into the Shining series, but it looks really nice, kind of Tales-ish as well, like Tales action RPG. But I'm sure Greg can enlighten us more about Shining Resonance.
Um, I think I've already mentioned this before. I've kind of cut my ties with the Shining series
Oh
in
yeah,
order for me to regain that love for Sega. Because anytime I think about what's happened to the Shining Force community, it really puts me in a bad mood. So I'm not really reluctant to talk about any of the new Shining games. I mean, even though sadly I think Shining Blade and Shining Arc look like really fun Valkyria Chronicles X games, but just because of how the whole blow up, I know I should be the bigger man and forgive, but man, I can't get my hopes up because I think that's the main thing about the Shining Force community has gotten their hopes up so many times, and only for Sega just to throw it back in their face as harsh as humanly possible. And I think right now they know that it's a series that they would have a struggle. Like if they were to bring out any new Shining games, it would have to be marketed to a new audience. It really have to. They cannot depend on the Shining Force community after everything they've done to them. So, yeah.
yeah,
And as we're talking about Atlas, and that might be a game that Atlas might consider doing. But I really have to consider it like I consider the Final Fantasy series. I've had my era of Final Fantasy games that I absolutely love, and recently those Final Fantasy games are not for me. It's kind of the same thing with the Shining series. I had this great decade in the 90s where I absolutely loved the series, and the games they make nowadays are not the same. You know,
yeah.
I should try and treat it as something different, but I won't get into it anymore. I mean, it looks okay, but I don't think I'll end up playing it.
All right. Understandable. We'll wait and see what happens with it. But thanks again, Sankai, for that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I know you're a big Tales fan, and hopefully Destiny 2 and Rebirth will be playable for you as well. Uh,
I will say I think Rebirth looks amazing, and the protagonist looks interesting. And because I've played Tales of Grace's F, I don't want to go too much because it's kind of a spoiler, a bit of an Easter egg, but that was really cool considering the Rebirth sort of Easter egg in that game. But I looked at Rebirth and it looks like the coolest of the 2D Tales games for me. So hopefully one day we'll all get to play it. I think there is a complete English video playthrough on YouTube, so that's there for
yeah,
anyone
that's
that's
true.
interested.
Yeah, that's true. And just wanted to mention, like Senkai, he actually is. He mentioned recently that he has a PS3 that is able to play Tales of Vesperia, which has gotten a fan translation.
That's
Like
pretty cool.
Vesperia on a PS3 has a fan translation, like 100%. you need to mod your PS3 for it, which I'm not gonna do. But that's one game I want to play, Vesperia on the PS3. I should have included it on my list because you can technically play it on Xbox 360. I've left it out, but the PS3 version is a lot better.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
But enjoy that, Senkai, if you get around to it. All right, we have three more.
Cheers, Senkai.
Yeah, definitely. So we have three more entries here. One is Doomwaves, another great YouTuber from another gaming podcast. He mentions Etrian Odyssey Untold 2. Very excited for it. Yeah, we already touched upon this. It's not out yet in Japan. It's coming out very soon.
I think in this instance it's kind of firing the gun a bit too early because even though I reckon they will announce it, it's just they're just delaying it. But on a different, unrelated note, just want to wish Chance a happy birthday. Happened recently.
Me too. Happy birthday indeed to Chance. He was yesterday, November 5th. So if you're listening to this, again, congratulations. And Chance doesn't know about this yet, but I really hope that he actually got his gift that I sent him to me, that I sent to him in the mail. I don't even know if he realizes it's for me, but we'll see that in a YouTube video. But Chance, thanks for listening and happy birthday. May you add many, many more.
Absolutely.
All right, so moving on to Paul Kenna, which is Pookie2 on YouTube, Pookie2 or Pookie K2. He is a big fan of Fire Emblem, and his entry is Fire Emblem 1 on the Famicom. Now, allow me to give you some good news. We have, of course, Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon on the DS, which is a complete remake of the original Fire Emblem 1. However, if you're really clamoring for your original Fire Emblem 1 Famicom in English, it's out there, it's patched, and you can enjoy the hardcore difficulty of Fire Emblem 1 on your emulator.
You have to be careful though, because depending on the ROM you have, depending on the device you play it on, it really can mess up if it's on PSP. Like, it'll turn into a glitchy mess. So, be careful. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, that's it. That's Paul. Then we have Al Caffrey. He mentions Ni no Kuni for the DS, and that is a great one. I have to say that, yes, I at some point would like to play the DS version with its whole touch controls. However, having played the PS3 version last year, which I thought was a good game, it could have been improved a little bit in terms of gameplay, but it was a great game nonetheless. It has satiated some of that clamoring for the DS version. The story is pretty similar. The PS3 version even moves on besides that. And the only reason for me to play it would be, to check out the gameplay. I hope it happens at some point. There was some fan community trying to get into it, but apparently it was very hard to hack it. But it's a valid answer, and I really hope that someday Ni no Kuni for the DS is fan translated.
It'll be interesting to see what happens to Ni no Kuni. I think that's going to be, if nothing happens to it, that's going to be the last thing that sort of holds sort of like the love for Ni no Kuni together as something sort of new for that community. I don't know what Level 5's going to do, but it would be cool to have Ni no Kuni on the DS, because there was a long time ago we were so certain we were going to get it, but that was the start of Level 5's weird era where there was a lot of games they made that didn't even get considered for localization. And I'm hoping that in the coming years, maybe some headway can be made and we can go back to enjoying Level 5's games, because it's been too long.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so those are all the entries. I was actually expecting some entries like Dust and Christ or Dragon Quest 7, but, didn't participate.
No, he was here in spirit. I could feel his thoughts from afar, and it's just like Dragon Quest 7. No surprises there.
and of course, I know how much Mario actually wants to replay the entire Sakura Tyson series again. Yeah, hopefully one day, Mario, and hopefully I will enjoy the games. But I was kind of expecting them, but maybe they're busy. That happens sometimes, and Facebook can be crazy. But they're great fans, and we are of them as well, their YouTube channel. So. Thanks. I've been going through all the entries. I've actually prepared some paper slips here where I actually wrote our names on it as well. We are hosts. We are not participating. So right now I have here a stack of all the entries. So let's see. It's time. So thanks again for all your entries. Really good ones. This is what we wanted to get out of RPGibberish community, and I'm very happy to help. We are both very happy to hand out some prizes here. So thanks for your entries. We enjoyed talking about them. We are going to be announcing one winner of which entry we thought would be the best. I think we hinted at it already, right?
Yeah, we definitely
We,
did.
we basically agreed before the recording, where I already had my thoughts. I asked Greg which one of the entries did you like the most, and we are going with Sarah. So Sarah,
Yep.
you are the winner of the contest in terms of one part of it. So I'll be contacting you on Facebook, whether you would like a nice PSN gift certificate if you have a PSN thingies, or I will send you some hard-earned cash over the PayPal's. And if you don't even have that, then we'll see how we're going to be dealing with that. But I'll reach out to you on Facebook. So Sarah, big thank you for showing your passion on Seventh Dragon.
Yep, congratulations. It was a great choice, and I really want to talk about it, but when you posted it, I was like, no, I was gonna wait. Definitely gonna wait until we brought that up. So yeah, definitely,
Yeah,
definitely good choice.
it definitely not only it's not only the games, of course, but just the explanation and all that stuff. That's something
Yeah.
that we wanted to see.
I,
So
I think any one of our good listeners who did participate, just to take note that if you do a entry along those lines, it will probably get you a better chance because we like hearing about why. Just not not the we're very appreciative of people telling us what games they want translated, but why is the more interesting part of it. So
yeah. So for those who are scratching their head right now, for next time, just a little bit more of a story. It's what I mentioned in the contest, but I was already anticipating. It's like I'm a couple of steps ahead. So what I'm also doing is I'm going to be randomizing it. So I have my paper slips here, and
yeah, because we love you.
because we love you, we're actually going to give everybody a chance. Even chance, we're going to give chance a chance as well. So let's see. Let's see if I have everybody right here. I have my list on Google Drive, and I have here. I have Michael. I have a slip for him. I have. Let's see, Mark. We have one for you. We have one for Bernie. Sarah, she's going out, so get away. You are already the winner. Don't want to.
You are winner.
You are winner indeed. Now Duffy is over here. We have Fem Trooper. We have Orcon, we have Zenkai, we have Chance, we have Paul, we have Paul here as well, and then we have Al as well. Yeah, we have those. So we have all the entries here. I'm going to be putting them in the randomizer head. Just going to fold them up. There we go.
I like the fact you can hear it.
Oh, really? It picks it up. Yeah, I have some paper slips. I didn't want to use like a randomizing thing on YouTube or on Google or something.
So see, people, you can trust him. You can definitely trust him.
Yeah, I'm not actually recording myself or something like that, but all right, let me get the head here. Put it all in here. So I'm not going to be pulling out one because that's a cop-out thing. I'm going to be re-rolling the result until all my tries have run out. So the one that I'm going to be naming off first, you're not the winner, you're actually the first loser. So we're going to wait until only one remains, Battle Royale style. And first up, we have here, I rolled these stats. Social Link +3. That's the entry for Senkai. You are first loser. So yeah, no prize for you, Senkai.
But we still think you're a winner, Senkai.
Yeah, you're still a winner, though. You're still a winner. Next up, we have here Fem Trooper. You get transformation. I rolled transformation stats +60 for being a Sailor Moon fan. No winner for you as well. In the end, you're still winner.
I blame the Negaforce.
Definitely. All right, I have here the third inner. I rolled HP plus 100. It's Doom Waves. So, third loser. But you're still winner. All right, moving us on here. We have, on the fourth spot, we have Language Skills plus 999. Guess who that is? It's Oricon. So, you were not disqualified, but you didn't win either. Go enjoy your Japanese games, man. All right, we have here. It's Bernie. It's Outdated Gamer. Speed plus 80. I rolled those stats. I didn't like those as well, so we're going to be continuing re-rolling. Great Sega Gaga entry, though. A couple of left. I think we have 4 or 5 left. Next up is Paul Kenna. Strength plus 75 for your Fire Emblem sword. No winner here as well. Let's see. I think I have about 3 left.
Close to the end.
So next up is Brawling plus 90. That's Mark Vanhoek for his Yakuza entry. And then it's getting down the wire. There's 2 left. I think, who's else on the list? So second to last is Al Caffrey, Mana plus 50. You're probably the most disappointed one because you're the last loser. I apologize. Because there's 1 left. Who's left? Ah, of course. It's Michael.
Holy crap.
Michael is the actual winner. Interesting. This was the first one we read. But he is the last one to get pulled out of the hat. So, and this all went legit, people. I just went through it. So, but Michael, we're not paying favoritism, but you're a great friend on here. It's interesting. But I will be contacting you really soon on the Facebooks. You're getting your PSN stuff or PayPaling it to you. So there we have the randomized winner for bringing up actually 4 games. I don't know, should we disqualify him for making too many entries?
I think, in all fairness for the community, I think the next contest disqualify the winners, and then for the following contest they can come back in.
Yes. That is an interesting idea. I agree with that.
It's because he encourages people to. I mean, you all had wonderful entries, and we don't want to dishearten you from doing it again because we definitely want to hear from you again. Definitely. So everyone, next contest we have, come back, do your best, and you may get chosen.
Yeah, definitely. We will definitely, hopefully, have some contests in the future as well. So it's always fun to do. But I think it's a good idea too. The winners, so we have Sarah and we have Michael. They are the winners for this contest. I'll be contacting you soon. And then for the next contest, we'll hash out the details. But it might actually be a good idea, unless the prize is very awesome, to actually exclude Sarah and Michael from winning the contest. Not participating, but winning it.
Yeah, still be interested to see what they had their thoughts, but I think they'd be only too happy to let everyone else have a go. So,
yeah, definitely. So I'll be reaching out to you soon on Facebook. I gotta be careful not to actually contact you on Facebook before the episode is actually up, because that would spoil everything. That's not fun. So I'll wait a couple of days. I'll probably edit this episode today, so it will be up very soon. But so there we have it. The first ever RPGibberish contest. And I really like it. I don't know about you, Greg. I really like including a lot more of the people that are listening, naming them, mentioning them, and giving them something back. So there's something to involve the community a lot more. I really like that.
I think we have a very wonderful community, and I'm really happy with all our members right now. Hopefully it will grow in the next year or two. I mean, I'm very happy with what we have right now, but if we can get a lot more RPG fans and get a lot more opinions in the mix, I've seen some communities that are really good, and I've seen our community. I reckon we've definitely got the best community on Facebook right now. Really good opinions. I think it's also a great place for us of our thoughts and feelings when we're not doing news, and have this small community with different thoughts and feelings towards everything we have to say as well. the really thing I'm really getting into lately, that's kind of a really cool thing, sort of like to get our spirits up during the weekend, is I've been doing the RPG jukebox. That's been really fun to do. I was really slack last week, but I'm probably going to make up for it this weekend. But it's something I'm definitely going to be keep doing till the end of time. So there will be some Falcon music eventually, but I think for this episode, I actually might put up some music pieces from Final Promise Story, because I accentuated how much I love that soundtrack. So I'll definitely put up some pieces for people to enjoy.
Awesome. No, definitely awesome, and I'm always commenting on and sometimes a little bit ranting on some some RPG news that I always like sharing. So and other than that though, I'm on Facebook very often. I'm very well into the chat communities of Another Gaming Podcast and Excellent Gamers. Many of our listeners' names are in there as well, and I talk to a lot of you people directly on Facebook as well. Except for a few of the participants. So if you're interested and you're listening to this on YouTube, and you're interested to get more into the community, go check out the RPGibberish Facebook community and join some of the, I would say, surrounding communities around that as well. We're a very tightly knit community, I would say. With especially Another Gaming Podcast, Excellent Gamers, and RPGibberish, kind of like a trifecta. At least for me, it's like a trifecta because I'm in all three very, very happily. And many of the YouTube channels are in there, so that often talk to each other. So that's really, really cool. With that being said, I really hope you guys got a great kick out of this episode with some news, some games we're playing, and of course the big one is untranslated games. I have learned about many, many more titles that hopefully I can get around soon. Personally, I really got to get into actually playing Japanese RPGs, but I have some great, great games to be able to check out thanks to Mario and Senkai. So hopefully I can get into Valkyria Chronicles 3 and Nier pretty soon, especially for the end of the year. And then, of course, Persona Q, just throwing it out there. It's coming. But Greg, any final closing statements?
No, it's been a really good episode talking about the different RPGs that we desperately want to play with the fan translation. And I want to thank everyone who participated in the contest. Really, really good choices. Really good choices to my fellow co-host, Aero, and his wonderful list.
Yeah, you
and
too.
Thank him for bearing through my slew of obscure but yet wonderful RPGs that I definitely think 2015 is shaping up to be. Not only is it going to be the main revival of RPG Gibberish, it's going to be the revival of playing RPGs full time, really. So it's going to be a really good year. But however, it's not 2015 yet. We still got at least 2 months, even though we're into the second last month of 2014. There still can be some time for some RPGs in 2014.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'm going to try my best. And hopefully we'll do another episode to close out the year. We'll see how that goes. But it's great to get RPGibberish going with some actual content. So when you're listening to this, it will already be uploaded and available for your listening pleasure. Right now, I'm just going to be delving into editing it. And Greg, big thank you for making the time out of your day to record this one. It was a really great one, and hopefully we can do some more soon.
Absolutely. We mentioned before the character archetypes one will have to be one we have to deal in, because we have some very great opinions. I think both of us have both positive and negative, so that's going to be a really interesting episode to talk about.
Definitely. A very good idea. I recently also on my channel announced a Q&A for people asking questions, and there were also, of course, a lot of RPG questions already. And there was a couple of these types of things, like what is your favorite XYZ from RPGs, so favorite character. So I was going to do some analysis anyway, but the archetype things, it's really cool. I gotta delve into that one. So there's some hype there, and we'll try to get a dedicated series episode set up soon. We mentioned this before, it is a little bit tricky to align 3 time zones or sometimes 2 time zones, and everybody is very busy nowadays, but hopefully we can get a dedicated series review up again like we did in the first season of RPGibberish. But stick around for that, and in the meantime, join the community, get talking about JRPGs that you've been playing and enjoying, and we'll go from there. So thank you guys for listening, and for me personally, Arrow out. Want to round it out, Greg?
And I want to say to everyone, thank you very much for listening to this wonderful episode about fan translations. Definitely give us your thoughts on the episode. You enjoyed it. Is there any last minute fan translations that you forgot and want to quickly mention? We'd be more than happy to talk about it on our Facebook fan page. So definitely go there and type in RP Gibberish with 2 B's. So, with that in mind, I just wish to say thank you for listening, everyone, and fare thee well. When I saw them driving past the gas station, I said to myself, when I'm playing the game, I'm going straight into that gas station. And I really hope I can actually go inside. And it'd be cool if I could go inside and buy potions or whatever inside. That'd be awesome if I could do that. But graphically, I'm really impressed with everything. And what was really cool about this video is they showed off the Luminous engine, and they showed off how they placed all the trees, all the terrain. It's really astounding, and I'm really excited. Even though it's a Final Fantasy game, I should be really cautious. I will say that I am really excited for the game. I can't lie to myself. I really want to play it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Of course, I saw the videos as well. It looks, it looks absolutely gorgeous, and this, yeah. I'm just presentation-wise, it looks really, really cool. I just have my, we talked about this in TGS. I just have my concerns about the story and being male only, but we've talked about that before. I'm really, really looking forward about the demo. One thing that I have to talk about here, though, is something that came up with the release. Basically, right now, if you go to Amazon UK, you can order the game Type 0 HD for PS4, Xbox One, and it says there you got to pre-order soon because the demo is going to be a timed thing. And this is something where I'm rolling my eyes out. It's not like, why do they not just include this Final Fantasy 15 demo on the disc instead of having to redeem codes, download it, and then also make it a pre-order bonus? Like, what the fuck is going on here, Square? For every good news, usually Square gives us 3 or 5 things back that are not so cool. But because I'm more hyped for the demo than actually for Type 0 HD.
That is a dick move on their behalf. It's just really stupid to hype up and say, hey, it's going to come with the game. It's like, no. Now it's going to be a pre-order bonus or a timed exclusive in certain parts of the world. That's the problem. They give localization and distribution to different companies or different sectors, and they have their own plans, and one country ends up getting screwed in the process. Like Hyrule Warriors, there was in Japan, you can get like all these costumes at once if you lived in Japan. In America, they did this stupid system where if you pre-ordered the game at a certain retailer, you can only get one set of those costumes, and you would miss out on the others because they were exclusives for those other retailers. That is so shit. That is just really shit.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it'd shoot them in the foot to get everyone excited for the 15 demo and then just say, hey, nah, you have to get it as soon as possible. No, they'd kill them in the end. It really, really would. They really need to pack in that game with, Type 0 HD.
Yeah.
It's in their best interest to do so, to get hype for the game.
Oh, definitely. I really hope they do that. Just thinking about it, yesterday was another great, awesome announcement, to be honest, in JRPG news. And that is the fact that Square Enix is going to be releasing a Kingdom Hearts 2.5 Collector's Edition in Europe and USA, or at least North America. It looks really awesome. You basically get 1.5, 2.5 at once. You get a lot of cool art books. You get a great steelbook with some awesome art, nice package box, and you get like a Heartless plushie. It looks really cool, and money-wise, I can just drop the money right now, and I want it. However, talking about stupid decisions, it's going to be a Square Enix store exclusive.
Of
Uh,
course it is.
and right now it only says USA, UK, and France. So basically, the entirety of Europe and Square Enix of Europe is behind this. The entirety of Europe is UK and France. Now, with a side note, this is just announced yesterday on their blog. If you go to the store, the actual item is not yet available, so I have not tried to order one yet from the Netherlands. But if
Because there wasn't a thread on the internet. It's like, give us Majora's Mask, give us Majora's Mask. Well, those people can quiet down because you're getting Majora's Mask.
yeah.
So, and Majora's Mask, to be perfectly honest, I'm one of the biggest Zelda fans on the planet. It's kind of mid-tier for me. It does a lot of things interesting, but it's not like one of my super mega happy, fantastic Zelda games. It kind of sits there in the middle. I know a lot of people love it, but I'm sort of got to be honest with myself, and it's kind of in the middle with me. I don't mind it. But the one game Era may be referring to, and I got to say, the more I'm looking at this, it interests me is, I think it could be the entire name, but I think it was a codename Steam.
No. I was actually talking about that other series that I completely scratched off. But Codename Steam, just to let you know, I'm not that excited for it. To be honest, I'm when I was announced at E3, it doesn't look very tempting to me. Despite the fact that it's intelligent systems, it's kind of having that Valkyria Chronicles vibes. But I am not really keen on this one for some reason. I have to see more, but not sold yet.
Gameplay wise, it reminds me so much of Valkyria Chronicles, and that's the main reason I definitely want to have a go at it, and because it's intelligent systems. The reason why I don't want to is because of when I saw you are under Abraham Lincoln, I was like, my attention span just dropped. And that's not like a kick in the face to our American listeners, but Abraham Lincoln's been done to death, and for him to be in a video game, in a steampunk game, I was just like, what? But I'm guessing this is Intelligent Systems kind of hat in the arena for Valkyria Chronicles games. You've got Valkyria Chronicles, which is this fantasy World War II setting, and then now you've got Intelligent Systems doing this fantasy steampunk-esque, 17th, 18th century game. And I don't want to completely dismiss it because it's on that time period, but yeah, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic about that game. If at anything, I'd probably wait until it's cheap, but I need to know a lot more before I get into it.
Yeah, agreed, definitely agreed. It's just letting it out. There's thinking about it out loud, Fire Emblem cross Valkyria Chronicles. The overhead style of Fire Emblem, and when you get down to it, you go into a little Valkyria Chronicles gameplay. They can make it happen.
Yeah.
It's possible. Lucina versus Salveria. I can see this happening, but there's already SMT versus across Fire Emblem that we know nothing about. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
And surprisingly, that wasn't in the direct. I mean, that is in development like nowhere. Oh man.
They haven't spoken about the game since their original announcement, which was back in the May 2013, somewhere before E3 even. Their first ever Nintendo Direct. Nothing since then. Sega bought out Atlas. I don't know. We'll wait and see. XCX was announced at the same Direct, and that has gotten some attention. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that game. But speaking about the game that I was actually referring to, it is Atelier Rorona for the 3DS. I was kind of thinking that this might be another one of those new 3DS titles, given the fact that I know I'm not a big fan of the Atelier series. I know we did a whole episode on there, and I was just listening in. But the graphics are supposed to be very awesome. And I believe there's also Atelier Rorona Plus on the PS Vita. And that looks really cool. And now they're going to be downgrading it to the 3DS. So I'm not sure if I'm too keen on this, except for just milking it dry and getting more sales for Atelier.
Oh, man. Gus really They're really fallen for me. It's just, I mean, when we get into games we're talking about recently, I'm going to talk about my feelings towards Arno Surge, but Gust is not one of my favorite developers right now, and I've kind of admit to myself I'm kind of done playing their games.
It is. It's very interesting. We all know me. I used to collect, pretty much every JRPG out there. I built up a sizable NIS collection, and in the end, I only played about one.
Girl sunbathing, and I basically said to myself, hang on, isn't this supposed to be a society that's struggling to survive? What the fuck she's doing there? What the
Yeah.
hell she's doing? And I said to myself, maybe she's on leave, Greg. So maybe she's working, it's her time off. But I just thought it was really funny because the game gives off this vibe that everyone's pitching in to help survive. And just seeing that footage there just made me laugh. So I'm guessing Monolith Soft is going to throw in a lot of Easter eggs and just some funny moments, for people who want to go off the beaten path. But I still think this is going to be a really dramatic and really deep and dark, brooding story. And this trailer just shows the scope of what this game's going to have. I reckon it's going to be absolutely massive, and it will not disappoint fans of the previous Xenoblade game.
Yeah, I was watching the Nintendo Direct, and it was a really fun one. And of course, more Xenoblade Chronicles X news is great. Personally, I'm very happy to see that it's still targeted for 2015. However, this was the first time where I actually got a good glimpse at sort of the, punchline story. And that is really tempting to me. I really like the fact that it's basically this group of survivors coming from Earth trying to find a new planet to survive. That is a very interesting concept, seeing how I'm usually very big on sci-fi and stuff like that. I believe there is a movie coming out actually today here that I'm very excited for. It's like my most hyped movie of the year. It's actually dealing with the same topics. So that's Interstellar, by the way. Uh,
Hmm.
but I believe that has to deal with the same topics of mankind trying to survive and trying to find a different place. But that's a movie. We're not here. We're not a movie podcast. But that is something that really struck with me well for XCX. Detail looks fantastic. I'm really excited for this game. Now, granted, I still have not finished the original Xenoblade Chronicles. I've tried it. I'm 2-3 sessions, about 10 hours in. And something that kind of disappointed me in regards to the Nintendo Direct is the lack of new 3DS announcement in the West. Well, technically in the West. I was hoping that they were going to be announcing the system to be released in Europe and North America, and then also target a release date for Xenoblade Chronicles on the 3DS. So that's definitely something that I would like to pick up and play, as long as the port is well, it can handle its own. But I was a little bit disappointed by the fact that they didn't announce it. However, I know full well that the new 3DS outside of Japan has actually been announced for Australia and New Zealand. Crazy enough. I believe it's coming out in December, right, Greg?
It's actually coming out towards the end of November.
Oh,
But the silly thing is, there is no special content. There's no new 3DS games for it. Basically, the only thing they're selling it for is, oh, it's the optimized way to play Super Smash Bros. And I'm like, well, I'm already playing it now, so I'm not going to fork out another $250 just to make it a little bit easier for myself. No, it's going to be games like Xenoblade Chronicles that will really push the system. And that's when I'm going to get my new 3DS is when Xenoblade Chronicles comes out. But hopefully in the next year, we also get some other RPGs that is using the enhancement for the system, and we get some other games as well. I mean, Xenoblade Chronicles is worthy enough, but I like to see some other things as well.
well, talking about that, there was another 3DS game announced, and I was kind of thinking, was this not going to be a new 3DS title exclusive? But we can jump right into it. What is the title of the other 3DS game?
There was actually a few. One of the ones, even though this is sort of main RPG podcast and everyone argues whether this is an action adventure game or an action RPG. It's like the battle of the ages. Of course, they announced a Zelda Majora's Mask for the 3DS, and that's kind of one that they caved into fan demand.
Welcome back, everybody, back again to a new episode of RP Gibberish. This is the second episode in the Revival series, and we got some great things planned. But without further ado, I have my great host and buddy here. It's Greg, RPG Swagman. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing really good. I'm still suffering from a very acute addiction of Hyrule Warriors, and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon, sadly.
Well, interesting. I'm definitely interested to find out more, and I think many of our listeners will as well. So let's talk a little bit about that. But in any case, welcome. Let me just outline for everybody out there listening, whether it's on YouTube or now on iTunes. Yes, we are on iTunes as well. Check it out. It's great to have the podcasts on the go. But in any case, let me outline the topics for this particular episode. So, what we're going to be talking about mostly is fan translations and untranslated games. So, there are many, many games, Japanese RPGs out there in the world, and some of these have just not been translated. There are, of course, several fans that try their best at localizing them for everybody to enjoy. But sometimes there are just those games that we missed out on, or some games that we are interested in that are currently in development. So what we're also going to be doing is we're going to be talking about our most anticipated untranslated games. Greg has a list and I have a list. We are going to be going over that back and forth. And then also what we announced on our Facebook page. Yes, we are selling out here. We have iTunes now. We have Facebook pages and community, but it's really great. We are talking to a lot of great people there. So definitely check out the Facebook page for RP Gibberish that we have. There's many, many awesome people there talking about JRPGs. We post about news and all that good stuff. But what I ran there is a contest. The very first RP Gibberish contest. In the spirit of sharing is caring, we are going to be giving away two money prizes, which I hopefully the winners will redeem on actually Japanese RPGs instead of something else. But we'll get to that later on. We have some great entries. Basically, what we asked everybody is to come up with your favorite untranslated games in English, maybe 1, 2, or 3 entries and a little bit of explanation. And we're going to be picking a winner as well as a randomized winner. So that are the two prizes. But that's going to be the main course of this RPGibberish episode. So to whet your appetite, everything awesome, ready to be played, but we can't. So it's going to be a disappointing episode for some because there's going to be awesome games that we cannot actually play, except for a few listeners that are very fluent in Japanese. But before we get ahead of ourselves, we're also going to be delving into a couple of news announcements that happened in the last couple of weeks and months since Tokyo Game Show, as well as delve a little bit in some of the RPGs that we have been playing. So I'm going to hand it over to Greg. He is going to be telling us everything about these awesome, awesome news announcements that happened in the last couple of weeks. So take it away, Greg.
Okay, very recently, today, as of the time of this recording, the entire world had Nintendo Direct, and they did some information on the upcoming releases. Towards the end of the Direct, they had a small little snippet of news for Xenoblade Chronicles X. It was relatively small, but we finally got to see new footage. The thing that really surprised me is the detail in the towns is far more than I ever anticipated. Of course, to all those who have already played Xenoblade, you know that you can pretty much walk around anywhere you can and explore all the little secrets you can. The amount of detail that's gone into these new colonies, the one that they showed in the trailer was Neo Los Angeles, and I was surprised that you could literally jump into people's backyards. That's how detailed it was, and the game itself is super detailed. Like walking down the street, you see like a pizzeria, all like the details on the sign. It's pretty awesome. One thing I thought was really funny, I have to take a stab at, is why they showed the player jumping around people's yards. There's some
or two, like just like Mana Kemia and some non-JRPG games from NIS and Gust and all that good stuff. However, recently there's this one probably faithful listener out there, which is Mario from the Accent on Gamers channel, and he's been recommending Atelier to me, saying that I should pick it up on a Vita and just play it. He's very convincing though. He's very convincing.
They are. I think that's going to be one I have a strong stance on, saying nah, nah. Just I played Atelier Arona, and that to me was mid tier. Like, I wouldn't say it was a complete bust. I mean, I enjoyed some parts of the game, but some parts of the game I was rolling my eyes. I was just, it's not a series for me. It really isn't. And I think I've talked to a lot of people about it, and they've kind of caved in and understood why I'm not really fond of it. So
I see. Well, hearing a lot of mixed reviews. Yeah, for me, I owned the games on the PS3, just didn't have the time to play it at all. So I just haven't played it. Maybe I should give it a try and to see what the fuss is all about and see if it indeed is mid-tier. We'll see. I have many other games to play. We'll get that in a little bit. But Atelier Verona, that was the I think that about covers everything JRPG wise from Nintendo Direct. There was another great event happening about a week before it, right, Greg?
yes, and it was actually quite surprising because I must admit this is a game that would not get talked about for the last couple of years, and in this year alone they probably covered more about the game than they have in the last 7 years of its development. Basically, in Paris, Square Enix hosted an event where they talked about Type 0 and Final Fantasy 15. And what was really cool is even though these trailers and videos that they showed footage of the game were subtitled in French, they actually, for Type 0's part, actually finally showcased the English voiceovers, which I thought was really cool. And we got to see more of the game. I think I ultimately chose the right thing to do to wait for the HD port because it runs really smoothly. It looks really good. I'm definitely going to get my PS4 around the same time this comes out. The voice acting is okay. I don't think there's any problems with it. It's pretty standard, and they got the job done, basically. But that's only a small snippet. Who knows? Maybe I'll play the game and will be really amazed of, what they have to offer. So, really cool.
All right. Anything else from Square Enix?
Yes, we're gonna talk a little bit about this because there's just been so much about it that we didn't get to cover too much about in the TGS episode. But they finally showed some more footage of the upcoming FF15 demo, and it looks really cool. They finally showed off when you can get out of the car and you can literally just go off the beaten path, Xenoblade style, and this is the part of the game that has me really excited because I didn't know how far you can go out, and yeah, it's really massive. You can go anywhere you want, and it shows them getting out of the car, and they go out into the field, and it's like got a herd of these buffalo-like monsters that they were dodging, and then they kept running and running into a forest, and the forest was so super detailed, and it was full of its own animal life, and it showed them kept running until the sun went down, and it showed the mechanics of nighttime. You saw the characters bring out their torches and really nice lighting effects. It's really awesome. And they kept running to like the other edge of the lake, and you stood on the pier and you saw where the other side where your car was. And it's like, oh man, the scope of this game is phenomenal. And I think when I get the game, I'm going to be exploring every nook and cranny. The thing I really want to know about is character interaction. Is it going to be like the older Final Fantasy games, or is it going to be like 13 where you just brush past someone and they may say something that, with basically how they did in that game is they would say something to themselves or to someone then, but they will never put it towards you. And I have a feeling that may happen, but I'm hoping there'll be at least some characters that will converse with you, like